The streets of Konoha bustled with life as usual, but for the boys sitting atop the fourth hulkish stone head, none of it mattered. Naruto Uzumaki stared down at the village with eyes that were different from everyone else's. They didn't reflect the light of hope or dreams, just an ancient, predatory darkness. No one noticed, not yet. He hadn't always felt like this. There was a time when he cared about things. Friends, pranks, even wanting to be Hokage. But something had awakened in him recently, something deep, and it was pulling him away from everything. The sensation started small. At first, it was just a weird feeling in his chest, like a low hum vibrating through his bones. But over time, it grew stronger, darker, until one night it exploded. He remembered the night clearly. It was a full moon. Naruto had been lying in bed, trying to sleep despite the usual loneliness clawing at him. The village always hated him, and he used to wonder why. Why was he cursed to be alone? But that night, it all changed. His body had started shaking uncontrollably, and his mind went blank as a surge of energy flooded his senses. It wasn't chakra, no, it was something far more powerful, far more ancient. It felt like the universe itself was pouring through him, like he'd been connected to something vast and terrifying. The walls of his apartment cracked, the glass shattered, but he didn't care. Memories that weren't his started to fill his head. Darkness, voids, endless battles with gods and beings of light. He remembered creating something, symbiotes, armies born from his will, all to wage war against light itself. And through it all, one name echoed. Knull. He didn't understand at first, but the more the memories settled, the more he realized what was happening. He was no ordinary kid. The Kyuubi wasn't the only force inside him. He was the reincarnation of Knull, the god of darkness and creator of the symbiotes. It all made sense, the loneliness, the hatred of the village, the power lurking beneath his skin. The next day, he stopped caring. The villagers' glares, their whispers, that didn't matter. He was something far beyond them now. Naruto. What the hell were you thinking? Iruka's voice rang out across the academy grounds. Naruto had failed the transformation jutsu, again. The other kids snickered, but Naruto's expression didn't change. He didn't even blink. Iruka frowned, concerned. Naruto usually defended himself with some loud outburst or stupid excuse, but today he just stood there. Silent. Cold. Naruto, are you listening? Iruka barked, but the boy's mind was somewhere else. He didn't care about the stupid class, the test, or even becoming a ninja anymore. What was the point of trying when he already had power beyond their comprehension? Naruto glanced at the other kids, Sasuke, Sakura, Kaiba. All of them were weak, beneath him. He could feel it. His fingers tingled with a dark energy humming just below the surface, waiting to be unleashed. It was intoxicating, but he kept it hidden. For now. He left the class without a word. Later that evening, Naruto found himself standing in the forest outside the village, staring at his hand. The moonlight illuminated his face, but his eyes were filled with shadows. He clenched his fist, feeling the power coil and twist inside him like a living thing. His connection to Knull was growing stronger each day. Suddenly, the darkness answered. A tendril of black liquid erupted from his hand, swirling and shifting into sharp, blade-like forms before retracting back into his skin. He stared at it with mild interest, but no fear. It felt natural, like it had always been a part of him. From the shadows behind him, a voice interrupted his thoughts. So, you finally show your true self, Naruto? Naruto turned to see Mizuki, Iruka's fellow teacher, stepping out from the trees with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. He was holding a large scroll, the Forbidden Scroll. You know, I always knew there was something wrong with you, but I didn't expect this. Naruto tilted his head, still not really caring. Mizuki was nothing. How about you help me out, Naruto? Mizuki continued, his voice oily. With your power, we can take this village down. You've always been treated like a demon, right? They hate you. Let's show them what a real demon can do. Naruto remained silent for a moment, staring at Mizuki with those dark, cold eyes. Mizuki stepped forward, thinking he'd won the boy over. You think I care about what these people think? Naruto's voice was low, almost bored. You think I care about you? Before Mizuki could react, a tendril of blackness shot from Naruto's hand, wrapping around his throat in an instant. His eyes bulged as he was lifted into the air, gasping for breath. You're weak, Naruto said, his voice devoid of emotion. Why would I waste my time with you? With a flick of his wrist, the tendril tightened, and Mizuki's body went limp, the life drained from him in seconds. Naruto released the corpse, letting it drop to the ground with a dull thud. He didn't even look at it as he turned and walked back toward the village, leaving the forbidden scroll lying forgotten on the ground. By the time Naruto reached the village gates, the Kyuubi stirred within him. What are you, boy? The fox's voice echoed in his mind, laced with confusion and unease. The Kyuubi could feel the shift in power, the darkness enveloping Naruto, but it was unlike anything the beast had ever encountered. Not chakra, not nature entity. Something far older. Naruto smirked. I don't need you, fox, he said aloud, his voice cold. Not anymore? He didn't care if anyone heard him. He didn't care about anything. He was no longer just Naruto Uzumaki, the outcast. He was the reincarnation of a god. A god of darkness, and the world would soon see what that meant. As he strolled through the streets of Kanata, the villagers stepped aside, their usual looks of disdain replaced with something else. Fear. They couldn't explain it, but they could sense the change. Something primal inside them told them to stay away from the boy with the dead eyes. Naruto's lips twitched into a small, humorless smile. This was only the beginning. Days passed, but the change in Naruto only deepened. His classmates noticed it first. He no longer cared about the lessons, the training, or even his rivalry with Sasuke. He was distant, more than usual. He still came to class, but it was clear his mind was elsewhere. Sasuke, prideful as ever, tried to provoke him one afternoon. What's wrong, dead last? Finally realized you'll never beat me. Naruto just glanced at him, eyes cold and devoid of any interest. I already have, he said simply, turning away. It wasn't long before the adults noticed, too. Iruka tried to talk to him, tried to reach the boy he thought he knew. But Naruto didn't care. Not about the tests, not about the exams, not even about his dream of being Hokage. Because why would a god want to lead a village? One night, as Naruto wandered through the forest again, the darkness within him surged. The sky above seemed to ripple, the stars dimming as if the universe itself recoiled from his presence. Tendrils of black energy erupted from his body, coiling and twisting like living shadows. He felt alive. More than that, he felt complete. The power of Knull was fully awakened within him now. He could feel it coursing through every cell, every thought. And with it, the overwhelming realization that nothing in this world mattered to him anymore. The village, the people, even the world itself, none of it was worth his attention. He was above it all, and now, finally, he could see it clearly. Naruto Uzumaki, the boy who once wanted to be Hokage, was gone. All that remained was the god of darkness. And he would decide what to do with this world, when if he ever cared enough to. The forest was silent, as if nature itself held its breath in the presence of something beyond its understanding. Naruto stood in a clearing, the tendrils of darkness still shifting around him like living shadows. He watched them with detached interest, marveling at the ease with which he could control them now. Each one responded to his thoughts, bending and shaping into whatever form he desired. This power wasn't just an awakening, it was who he was. The memories of Knull were clearer now, though Naruto didn't dwell on them. The wars against gods, the endless conflict between light and dark, the creation of the symbiotes, it all seemed so trivial to him. What mattered now was what he would do with his power, if anything at all. The world was so small, the people so insignificant. He didn't care about revenge, or recognition, or even destruction. He simply existed, and that was enough. The rustling in the trees pulled him from his thoughts. Without turning, he could sense the presence behind him, multiple figures, moving through the trees with the trained precision of shinobi. Naruto Uzumaki, a gruff voice called out. You're coming with us. Umbu. Naruto could feel their eyes on him, hidden behind their masks, but they didn't know what they were dealing with. He didn't bother to turn around. What do you want? He asked, his voice carrying the same disinterest that had marked him for days. You've been acting suspiciously, the leader of the Umbu squad said, stepping forward cautiously. We have orders to bring you in for questioning. Naruto finally glanced over his shoulder, his eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight. He could feel their unease, their tension. They were nervous, though they hid it well behind their masks. Questioning? He almost laughed. What could these masked shinobi possibly ask him that would matter? But there was something about their approach that stirred a distant, almost forgotten part of him, the part that once cared about things like being judged, like being accused. He turned fully, his gaze locking onto the leader of the squad. And if I don't feel like coming with you? The Umbu tensed, clearly not expecting the casual defiance. The leader signaled the others to prepare for an engagement. This isn't a choice, Naruto. It's an order. Naruto's eyes narrowed slightly. Orders, he repeated, as though tasting the word. Then, with a slow, deliberate movement, he raised his hand, and the darkness responded. Tendrils shot out from the ground around him, coiling like serpents, ready to strike. The Umbu squad moved, but they were too slow. The tendrils lashed out with lightning speed, slamming into one of the masked shinobi and pinning them to the ground. The others barely had time to react as more tendrils erupted from the shadows, attacking from all sides. The forest filled with the sound of battle, but to Naruto, it was like watching insects struggle in a web. He didn't even need to exert himself. The Umbu fought back, their blades cutting through the tendrils, but it didn't matter. The darkness was endless, regenerating as fast as they could destroy it. One by one, the masked figures fell, trapped by the ever-growing mass of black tendrils that Naruto summoned at will. The leader of the squad, the last one standing, stared at Naruto with wide eyes. What are you? Naruto stepped forward, his expression unreadable. I'm done answering questions. The darkness surged forward, swallowing the Umbu in an instant. Silence fell once again over the forest, the only sound a soft rustling of leaves in the wind. Naruto watched for a moment, then dismissed the tendrils with a thought. The bodies of the Umbu were gone, consumed by the void he commanded. He stared down at his hands, flexing his fingers. The power was intoxicating, but it wasn't enough to make him feel anything. Not yet. Back in the village, rumors spread quickly about the disappearance of the Umbu squad. They had been sent to investigate Naruto Uzumaki, the boy who had grown strange and distant, but they never returned. The village's leadership, particularly the third Hokage, grew concerned. There was something happening with Naruto, something dangerous. Sarutobi Hiruzen sat behind his desk, smoking his pipe, his brow furrowed in thought. The reports were vague, but troubling. Naruto's behavior had shifted drastically over the last few weeks, and now a squad of highly trained shinobi had gone missing. He couldn't ignore it any longer. Summon Jiraiya, he muttered to his assistant. We may need to take more direct action. Meanwhile, Naruto wandered the streets of Konoha like a ghost, his presence barely acknowledged by the people around him. They still whispered, still glared, but it didn't matter. Nothing they did mattered. He felt the darkness inside him swirling, growing stronger by the day. The world around him seemed duller, quieter, as if reality itself was recoiling from his very existence. He passed by a group of children playing in the street. One of them, a small boy with a ball, glanced up at Naruto, his eyes wide with curiosity. Hey, are you Naruto? Naruto paused, looking down at the child with an expression that bordered on indifference. Yeah. What of it? The boy blinked, as if unsure how to respond. You're gonna be Hokage someday, right? Naruto stared at the kid for a moment, the question hanging in the air. Hokage? That dream felt so far away now, like it belonged to another person. The idea of leading a village of weak, insignificant people didn't appeal to him anymore. I don't care about that, Naruto said flatly, turning and walking away. The boy watched him go, confused by the answer. Naruto didn't look back. Later that night, as the village slept, Naruto found himself standing on the same spot atop the fourth Hokage stone head, looking out over the quiet streets below. The moon was high, casting a pale light over the rooftops, but Naruto's thoughts were elsewhere. He could feel the Kyuubi stirring inside him, restless and agitated. The fox had been silent for days, watching, waiting. But now, with Naruto's power growing, it couldn't stay quiet any longer. You're not a human anymore, boy, the Kyuubi growled, its voice rumbling through Naruto's mind. You've become something else. Something I don't understand. Naruto smirked, but didn't respond. The Kyuubi had every reason to be confused. This was beyond chakra, beyond tail beasts. It was older than both. What are you going to do now? The fox demanded, its irritation clear. Naruto closed his eyes, letting the cool breeze wash over him. I don't know, he admitted. Maybe nothing. The fox growled again, frustrated by Naruto's apathy. You can't just sit here. You have power more than anyone in this village. Why don't you use it? Why don't you destroy them? Naruto opened his eyes, gazing out over the village. Because I don't care about them, he said quietly. They are nothing to me? For the first time, the Kyuubi was silent, unsure of how to respond. It had always known anger, rage, hatred. But this was different. Naruto's indifference was something the fox couldn't comprehend. Naruto's smirk faded as he continued to stare out over the village. The power of Knull pulsed within him, ancient and unrelenting, but he remained detached. He was a god now, or close enough to one. But the world around him felt so small, so meaningless. What did a god have to care about? And so, Naruto stood there, watching the village that had once been his home, feeling nothing at all. Days passed, and the tension in the village grew thick. Naruto could sense the change. He could feel the anxious glances of the villagers, the way the shinobi seemed more alert. The air was heavy with unease, but Naruto didn't care. He spent his days wandering aimlessly, the power within him growing, but he had no direction. No purpose. One evening, as Naruto walked through the village, he noticed something unusual. At the gates of Konoha stood Jiraiya, the legendary Sannin, towering over the crowd as he exchanged words with the third Hokage. Naruto's eyes narrowed slightly. He knew of Jiraiya, one of the village's strongest shinobi, a man who could likely challenge the power of the Kyuubi. But even Jiraiya was nothing compared to him now. As if sensing Naruto's gaze, Jiraiya turned his head, his eyes locking onto Naruto's with an intensity that betrayed his concern. The old man knew something was wrong, but he didn't yet understand the scope of it. Naruto met his gaze, unblinking, before turning away and disappearing into the crowd. That night, Jiraiya found Naruto sitting by the riverbank outside the village, staring at the reflection of the moon in the water. The Sannin approached cautiously, his usual playful demeanor subdued. Naruto, Jiraiya began, his voice careful. The old man's been worried about you. Everyone has. Naruto didn't respond at first, his eyes fixed on the water. He didn't care about their worry, or their concern. It was all so insignificant. I've heard some things, Jiraiya continued, stepping closer. Strange things. People are saying you've changed. That something happened to you. What's going on, kid? Naruto finally turned his head, his gaze meeting Jiraiya's. His eyes were cold, void of the fiery spirit they once held. You wouldn't understand, Naruto said flatly. Jiraiya frowned, crossing his arms. Try me. For a long moment, Naruto was silent, contemplating whether it was even worth explaining. But something stirred in him, some long-forgotten part of the boy he used to be. He decided to speak, if only to clear the air. It's not about chakra. It's not about the Kyuubi either, Naruto said slowly, his voice distant. There's something else inside me. Something ancient. Jiraya's eyes narrowed in confusion. What do you mean? What kind of power are we talking about here? Naruto stood up, turning to face Jiraiya fully. The wind rustled through the trees, and for a moment, the night felt still, as if waiting for something. I'm not like you, Naruto said quietly. I'm not like anyone. I've remembered things from before this world existed. Jiraya's confusion deepened. Before this world? Naruto, that doesn't make any sense. Naruto's expression didn't change. He raised his hand, and the darkness responded. Tendrils of black energy coiled around his arm, shifting and twisting like living shadows. Jiraiya took a step back, his eyes widening in shock. He'd seen many strange things in his lifetime, but this was something else entirely. What the hell is that? Jiraiya asked, his voice tense. This is who I am, Naruto replied. I'm not just Naruto Uzumaki anymore. I'm something much older. Something far more powerful. Jiraiya's mind raced, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. The black tendrils, the void-like energy, it wasn't chakra, it wasn't nature energy, and it definitely wasn't something related to the tailed beasts. This was different. Alien. Dark. You're still the same kid, Naruto, Jiraiya said, trying to keep his voice steady. Whatever this power is, it doesn't change who you are. You're still. I don't care about who I was, Naruto interrupted, his voice colder now. That kid is gone. I don't want to be him anymore. Jiraiya's frown deepened. He could sense the disconnect in Naruto's words, the apathy, the complete lack of concern for anything or anyone. It was disturbing. Look, Naruto, you're dealing with something dangerous. I don't know what's going on with you, but you need to be careful. Power like this, it can mess with your head. Naruto's lips twitched into a faint, humorless smile. Maybe. But it's not like you can do anything about it. The air grew heavy between them, the tension palpable. Jiraiya knew he was out of his depth. Whatever this power was, it was far beyond anything he'd seen before, and Naruto wasn't the same kid he'd known. I don't want to fight you, Naruto, Jiraiya said, his tone softening. Naruto shrugged. Then dulled? For a moment, it seemed like the conversation might end there, but Jiraiya wasn't ready to give up. What about your dream, Naruto? What about becoming Hokage? You used to care about that more than anything. Naruto's smile faded, and he looked out over the river. That dream doesn't matter anymore. None of it does. Jiraiya felt a pang of sadness at the words. The boy who once shouted about becoming Hokage at the top of his lungs now spoke as if nothing in the world was worth his time. This wasn't just about power, something deeper had shifted in Naruto, and Jiraiya didn't know how to reach him. Is there anything left of the old Naruto? Jiraiya asked quietly, almost pleading. Naruto was silent for a long time, the darkness swirling around him, reflecting the void he felt inside. He didn't know how to answer that, and in the end, he didn't care to. Without another word, Naruto turned and walked away, leaving Jiraiya standing alone by the riverbank. The Sunin watched him go, his heart heavy with the weight of what he had just witnessed. Whatever had happened to Naruto, whatever darkness had awakened within him, the boy he once knew was gone. Naruto continued to distance himself from the village, spending more time in the wilderness, away from the prying eyes of the shinobi who still hadn't fully grasped the extent of what he had become. He wandered through forests, across mountain ranges, exploring the limits of his new abilities. The symbiotic energy within him was limitless, and with each passing day, he felt more detached from the world around him. He encountered wild animals, bandits, and even rogue shinobi during his wanderings, but none of them posed any threat. Every confrontation ended the same way, with the shadows consuming his enemies, their bodies vanishing into the void. It wasn't long before rumors of a dark power roaming the outskirts of Konoha began to spread, but Naruto paid no attention. Let them fear him. Let them wonder. It didn't matter. One night, as he rested beneath a tall tree, the darkness inside him stirred again. He felt it, deep in his bones, a pull, like something calling out to him from beyond the physical world. His connection to Knull was growing stronger, and with it, the memories of what he once was. Naruto closed his eyes, letting the darkness envelop him. He saw glimpses of a past life, an endless void, the universe bathed in shadow, armies of symbiotes bowing before him as he waged war against gods and light. It felt so real, so close, as if he could reach out and touch it. He opened his eyes, and the world around him felt small, fragile. Why should I stay here? Naruto muttered to himself, his voice barely a whisper. Why should I care about this place at all? The answer, of course, was that he didn't. Not anymore. Naruto stood, the shadows coiling around him like a living cloak. There was nothing left for him in Konoha. No reason to stay. He was a god, and the world was nothing more than a fleeting distraction. He didn't care about becoming Hokage, about proving himself, or about the people who had once shunned him. He would walk his own path now. Naruto stood under the moonlit sky, the darkness swirling around him like a living entity. He was no longer bound by the village's expectations, by the dreams of a boy who once cared for recognition. The power of Knull had fully awakened within him, and with it, a profound sense of indifference toward the world he had once been part of. He gazed out at the village in the distance, its lights twinkling softly under the night sky. Konoha had never truly accepted him, and now it felt even more distant, like an afterthought. There was no reason for him to return, no desire to prove himself to those who had always been too blind to see his worth. Naruto was beyond them now. As Naruto wandered further from the village, his path led him deeper into the wilderness, where the weight of civilization couldn't reach him. The trees grew denser, and the forest around him pulsed with life, but it all felt insignificant compared to the power he carried. The animals instinctively kept their distance, sensing something far more dangerous than anything they had encountered. Naruto felt a strange pull and urge to test the limits of his newfound power. He had destroyed enemies effortlessly, obliterated obstacles with a mere thought, and yet he knew he was capable of far more. The void inside him whispered, urging him to let go, to embrace the full scope of what he could become. Stopping in a small clearing, Naruto stood still for a moment, letting the silence wash over him. He raised his hand, and the darkness responded immediately. Tendrils of shadow shot out from his body, twisting and writhing like snakes. With a flick of his wrist, the tendrils lashed out at the trees around him, slicing through the trunks like they were made of paper. The forest erupted in chaos as trees crashed to the ground, one after another, creating a clearing where there had once been a dense thicket. The shadows around Naruto danced with excitement, feeding off the destruction, eager for more. Naruto watched, unimpressed. This was nothing. He closed his eyes, reaching deeper into the well of power within him, summoning more of the darkness. The sky above seemed to darken as the shadows expanded, blotting out the moon and stars. The ground beneath him began to tremble as the very earth seemed to react to the overwhelming force Naruto was unleashing. A low, guttural growl echoed in the back of his mind, the Kyuubi stirring restlessly inside him. What are you trying to prove? The fox snarled, its voice thick with irritation. Naruto smirked, his eyes still closed. I'm not proving anything, he replied calmly. I'm just seeing how far this power can go. You're going to destroy everything around you if you keep this up, the Kyuubi warned, though there was an edge of fear in its voice that it couldn't quite hide. Naruto's eyes snapped open, glowing with a cold, otherworldly light. So what? The darkness surged, spreading further, consuming the clearing in the forest beyond. The ground cracked beneath Naruto's feet, as if the very fabric of reality was beginning to buckle under the weight of the power he commanded. The symbiotic tendrils spiraled outward, seeking more to consume, to obliterate. But then, just as suddenly as it had begun, Naruto clenched his fist, and the darkness retreated. The tendrils withdrew, the sky cleared, and the forest, though scarred, was no longer collapsing in on itself. The earth stopped trembling, and the night became still once again. Naruto stood in the midst of the destruction, his expression unreadable. He could have let it all go, could have torn apart everything in his path, but for some reason, he didn't. Maybe it was boredom, or maybe it was something deeper, something even he couldn't quite name. Either way, it didn't matter. Meanwhile, back in Kanata, the atmosphere had shifted from concern to alarm. Jiraiya had reported to the Hokage after his encounter with Naruto, his tone grave as he explained the situation. "I've never seen anything like it," Jiraiya admitted, his voice low as he spoke to Hiruzen in the Hokage's office. "This power, it's not chakra. It's not even from this world. Whatever's inside Naruto, it's ancient and dangerous." Hiruzen puffed on his pipe, deep in thought. "And Naruto? How is he handling it?" Jiraiya shook his head. "He's not the same kid we knew. He doesn't care about the village anymore, or becoming Hokage. It's like, he's detached from everything. He doesn't care about anything." The third Hokage sighed heavily, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. "This is troubling. Naruto's power, if left unchecked, could pose a threat not just to the village, but to the entire world. We can't let this go on. What do you suggest?" Jiraiya asked, though he had a feeling he already knew the answer. "We need to bring Naruto back," Hiruzen said, his voice firm. "One way or another?" Jiraiya hesitated for a moment. "And if he doesn't want to come back?" Hiruzen's eyes darkened. "Then we'll have to make him." Naruto, now miles away from the village, sensed a shift. His connection to the void allowed him to feel the vibrations in the world around him, the disturbances that riddled through the air. The village was planning something. They would come for him soon. He could sense their intentions, their desperation to bring him back, to contain him. But Naruto wasn't concerned. Let them try. It wouldn't make any difference. As the night deepened, Naruto made his way to a secluded mountainside, far beyond the reach of Konoha's shinobi. The cool night air brushed against his skin as he sat on a rocky outcrop, gazing at the stars. The memories of Knull, the god of darkness, whispered to him, reminding him of his true nature. He had once waged war against the gods themselves, against creation, against everything. The Naruto of this world had been shackled by dreams of belonging, by a desire for recognition. But those shackles were gone now. Naruto knew who he was. And more importantly, he knew what he could be. As he sat there, the faintest sound reached his ears, barely noticeable to most, but to Naruto, it was clear. The shinobi were coming. He could sense their presence, the subtle shifts in the air as they moved, masked, and silent, toward him. He sighed, standing up and turning toward the direction of the approaching figures. "They never learn," he muttered to himself, his tone devoid of emotion. In the distance, the shinobi squad led by Jiraiya moved through the trees with practiced precision. Their mission was clear: bring Naruto back, by any means necessary. But as they closed in, Naruto's eyes glowed with cold, unfeeling light. He didn't intend to go back. He didn't intend to be anyone's pawn. The darkness inside him stirred, eager, hungry. And this time, he wouldn't hold back. As the shadows around him began to rise, swallowing the light of the stars, Naruto's lips curved into a small, dangerous smile. The shinobi squad moved silently through the dense forest, their figures darting between trees, masked by the shadows of the night. Jiraiya led them, his expression grim, knowing the difficulty of the task ahead. He had seen a glimpse of Naruto's power, and it was nothing like anything he'd encountered before. Beside him, Umbu operatives followed closely, handpicked for their ability to subdue even the most dangerous targets. Yet, despite their expertise, Jiraiya couldn't shake the sense of impending doom. This wasn't just another mission. The boy they were after wasn't just Naruto anymore. As they reached the mountainside where Naruto was last spotted, Jiraiya held up a hand, signaling the group to stop. His sharp senses picked up something, a disturbance in the natural energy around them. The air felt thick, oppressive, as though the very atmosphere was bending under the weight of something far greater. "He knows we're here," Jiraiya muttered under his breath, eyes narrowing. One of the Umbu operatives stepped forward. "Should we proceed, Lord Jiraiya?" Jiraiya hesitated for a moment, weighing his options. There was no way this would go smoothly. "We have no choice. But stay alert. He's not like he used to be." With a nod, the group pushed forward, their movements precise, weapons ready. But the further they went, the more unnatural the environment became. The ground beneath their feet was littered with black tendrils, remnants of the symbiotic energy that radiated from Naruto. It twisted and writhed, as though alive, reacting to their presence. Suddenly, a low, eerie voice echoed through the trees, cold and emotionless. "You should have stayed in a village." The squad froze, their eyes darting around, searching for the source. But Naruto wasn't hiding. He stood calmly atop a boulder, his figure illuminated by the faint glow of the moon, the darkness swirling around him like a living entity. Jiraiya stepped forward, his expression hard. "Naruto. It's time to come back to Knull." Naruto didn't respond immediately. He simply stood there, staring down at them, his eyes devoid of emotion. The Naruto they once knew, the boy who longed for recognition and connection, was gone. In his place was something far more detached, far more dangerous. "I don't belong in Knull anymore," Naruto said, his voice carrying an unsettling calm. "I don't belong anywhere." Jiraiya clenched his fists. "You're still Naruto Uzumaki. The village is your home. Your friends are there. You can't just—" "I don't care," Naruto interrupted, his voice sharp but calm. "Home? Friends? You're clinging to things that no longer matter." The words hit Jiraiya like a blow, but he couldn't afford to be emotional. He needed to focus. "This power, whatever it is, it's messing with your head, Naruto. You're not thinking straight." Naruto smirked, the shadows swirling around him growing darker, denser. "No. I'm thinking clearer than I ever have. This world, the village, all of it is meaningless. I see things now that you can't even begin to understand." Jiraiya signaled to the Umbu squad, and they moved swiftly, attempting to surround Naruto. But before any of them could even get close, the ground beneath them erupted with black tendrils. The shadows lashed out, binding their movements, dragging them down with terrifying force. The shinobi struggled, but the symbiotic energy was relentless, tightening around them like constricting serpents. Jiraiya watched in horror as his highly trained operatives were rendered powerless within moments. "Damn it," he cursed under his breath. Naruto wasn't playing around. "Don't you get it, Jiraiya?" Naruto said, stepping off the boulder, his eyes glowing with that cold, otherworldly light. "You can't stop me. You're also small." Jiraiya gritted his teeth, summoning a vast amount of chakra as he prepared a powerful jutsu. He couldn't afford to hold back anymore. If Naruto was truly this far gone, he had to try and subdue him no matter what. His hands moved in a blur, forming seals for his signature technique. Summoning jutsu. In a puff of smoke, the massive toad, Gamabuntak, appeared, towering over the forest. "Jiraiya. What's going on?" The toad bellowed, his deep voice resonating through the mountainside. "Naruto's lost control," Jiraiya shouted from Gamabuntak's head. "We have to stop him before he destroys everything." Naruto glanced up at the towering toad with mild curiosity. Gamabuntak may have been an impressive summon, but in Naruto's eyes, it was just another obstacle. Another small thing in a world filled with trivialities. Before Jiraiya could make his move, Naruto raised his hand, and the shadows erupted once more. This time, they shot toward the sky, coiling around Gamabuntak's massive frame like tendrils of a black storm. The toad let out a surprised grunt, attempting to break free, But the symbiotic entity was too strong. The darkness wrapped tighter, pulling Gamabunta to the ground with a force that made the earth quake. Impossible. Gamabunta growled, struggling against the shadows. Jiraiya leaped from his summon, landing a few feet in front of Naruto. This power, what the hell is it, Naruto? Naruto tilted his head slightly, the faintest hint of amusement flickering across his face. It's beyond you. Beyond this world. Jiraiya's heart sank. He could feel it now. This wasn't just raw power. It was something deeper, darker. Something ancient, and Naruto was fully in control of it. Naruto, if you keep going like this, there's no coming back, Jiraiya warned, desperation creeping into his voice. You'll lose everything. Your friends, your home. Naruto's eyes flared, and the shadows around him surged, crackling with destructive energy. I told you, Naruto said, his voice low and dangerous. I don't care. In an instant, the darkness shot forward, faster than Jiraiya could react. The shadows coiled around him, binding his limbs, immobilizing him. He struggled against the overwhelming force, but it was no use. The symbiotic tendrils were unrelenting. Naruto approached slowly, his expression unreadable. You all think you can bring me back, he said quietly. But you're wrong. Jiraiya could barely move, his body restrained by the crushing force of the darkness. He looked up at Naruto, his heart heavy. Naruto, don't do this. For a moment, there was silence. The wind howled through the trees, and the oppressive weight of the night seemed to press down on everything. Naruto stared down at Jiraiya, his eyes cold, distant. You're not my enemy, Jiraiya, Naruto said softly. But if you keep pushing, you'll force me to make you one. Jiraiya's breath hitched. He could feel that Naruto was holding back. Despite everything, there was still a part of him that didn't want to go this far. But that part was slitting away, buried under the weight of the power that now consumed him. Naruto released Jiraiya, the tendrils of darkness retracting. The Sannin dropped to the ground, gasping for breath, feeling the strain in his body. Leave me alone, Naruto said, his voice carrying an eerie finality. Before I stop caring completely? Jiraiya looked up at him, eyes filled with sorrow. He knew there was nothing he could do. Naruto was beyond reach now, his heart hardened by the overwhelming power coursing through him. With that, Naruto turned and vanished into the night, his form melting into the shadows, leaving Jiraiya alone amidst the wreckage. And as he disappeared, Jiraiya couldn't shake the feeling that the boy they once knew was truly gone forever. Jiraiya knelt on the cold ground, his breath ragged and heart heavy. The weight of what had just happened settled on him like a crushing boulder. Naruto was gone not physically, but in every way that mattered. The boy he had trained, the boy who once fought so hard for acceptance, was now a godlike being with no tether to the world. He glanced around at the wreckage, the shattered trees, the Umbu operatives who were still struggling to free themselves from the remnants of Naruto's power. The darkness that had bound and had dissipated, but the damage was done. There was no mistaking it anymore. Naruto wasn't just lost. He was something else entirely. Jiraiya struggled to his feet, his body aching from the strain of the encounter. His mind raced, trying to formulate a plan. What now? They couldn't just leave him alone to roam free with that kind of power, but any attempt to bring him back by force was clearly suicidal. Lord Jiraiya, one of the Umbu finally spoke, his voice shaky. What do we do now? Jiraiya didn't answer immediately. His eyes were locked on the spot where Naruto had disappeared into the night, his mind a swirling storm of doubt. Could Naruto even be stopped at this point? The power he wielded wasn't just chakra, it was something far more terrifying. Even the Toad Sage himself had been helpless against it. We return to the village, Jiraiya said after a long pause, his voice low and filled with reluctance. We need to inform the Hokage. This situation is worse than we thought. The Umbu operatives exchanged uneasy glances but nodded, slowly regaining their composure. Jiraiya could feel their fear. It mirrored his own. Meanwhile, deep within the vast wilderness, Naruto moved like a wraith through the trees, his mind silent, his heart cold. The world around him no longer held any meaning, the weight of existence itself feeling trivial in the face of the power that flowed through his veins. Knull's memories, his essence, coursed through him, and with it came the knowledge of what it meant to transcend. He stopped near the edge of a high cliff, overlooking a sprawling valley bathed in moonlight. It was beautiful, in its way, but even beauty had become irrelevant to him now. Everything was beneath him: human emotions, desires, connections. They were remnants of a past self he no longer recognized. The wind stirred around him, and with it came whispers of ancient voices, echoes of Knull's eternal struggle against the gods, against the light itself. Naruto's hands tightened into fists, the shadows responding instantly, spiraling around him in a maelstrom of dark energy. The void inside him was endless, and it called for more. It hungered for destruction, for domination. Yet there was a faint, almost imperceptible resistance within Naruto. A small, flickering remnant of the boy who once cared. The part of him that once longed for friends, for recognition, for love. But it was fading, drowning beneath the tides of Knull's influence. Naruto closed his eyes, trying to silence that voice. It was weak, pointless. It had no place in the world he was now part of. Power was everything. All that mattered was strength, the ability to crush anything that stood in his way. Back in Kanata, the village was on edge. The shinobi who had witnessed Jireita's return whispered in hushed tones, fear rippling through their ranks. Naruto, once the village's loudest and most boisterous outcast, had become something incomprehensible, a threat that even the Sunin couldn't contain. Hiruzen sat in his office, deep in thought, the report from Jireita lying open before him. The third Hokage's expression was grim as he puffed on his pipe, his mind trying to comprehend the gravity of the situation. Naruto's power had become a danger not just to the village, but to the world at large. But what could they do? Naruto wasn't just any runaway shinobi. He was beyond what any of them had faced before. Hiruzen had lived through many battles, had faced countless enemies, but this was different. Summon the council, Hiruzen finally said, his voice thick with resolve. And inform the daimyo. We may need to alert the other villages. This situation could affect more than just Konoha. Jiraiya, standing beside him, nodded solemnly. He had feared this would be the outcome. Naruto had to be stopped, but how? Even if they managed to bring the other villages into the fold, could they really face the darkness Naruto had become? What about Sasuke? Jiraiya asked after a moment. The boy is still obsessed with gaining power, and he might see Naruto as his chance to accelerate that. Hiruzen's brow furrowed at the mention of Sasuke. The Uchiha boy was a problem in his own right, but if Sasuke sought out Naruto, the consequences could be disastrous. We need to keep a close eye on him. Make sure he doesn't do anything reckless. As the Hokage gave out more orders to prepare for the worst, Jiraiya's mind wandered back to Naruto. Despite everything, despite the destruction and chaos he had witnessed, a part of him still believed there might be a way to bring the boy back. But how do you bring someone back when they've stopped caring entirely? Far from the village, in the silence of the night, Naruto stood alone on the cliff's edge. The void inside him was vast, unending, and for the first time, he felt truly at peace. The world below him, the struggles of humanity, it all seemed so insignificant now. A memory stirred within him, unbidden. A flicker of his younger self, running through the streets of Kanata, laughing, dreaming of becoming Hokage. That voice seemed so distant, so weak. Naruto's eyes, glowing with the faintest trace of the darkness within him, narrowed. I'm beyond all of that now, he muttered to himself. The past is dead. The darkness surged around him, twisting and coiling as if it could sense the power of his resolve. Naruto let it flow through him, unrestrained. He was no longer Naruto Uzumaki, the boy who sought approval, who longed for acknowledgement. He was something far greater. Something far more powerful. And in the quiet of that moonlit night, as the shadows embraced him, Naruto made his choice. He would no longer be tethered by the world's expectations, by the small minds of those who sought to control him. He would become something more, something unstoppable. He would become the embodiment of the void, the god of darkness itself. And nothing would stand in his way. The night was still, a cold wind howling across the cliffside as Naruto stood in absolute silence, his gaze fixed on the horizon. His transformation was complete not just in power but in purpose. The connection he once felt to the people of Kanata, to the world itself, had unraveled. He no longer belonged to that world. He was something far greater now. He was Knull's reincarnation, the embodiment of a god who had once waged war against the heavens. The remnants of his old life, a Hokage dream, bonds with Team 7, and even the 9 tails within him were nothing more than fading echoes in his mind. Power was now his only concern. Unchecked, godlike, and absolute power. He felt no fear, no remorse, no doubt. As dawn began to break, casting a pale light over the valley, Naruto finally turned away from the horizon. The wind blew harshly against him, but the shadows surrounding him consumed it, feeding off the natural energy of the world around him. He felt the power building inside him, an ever-growing hunger for more. Back in Kanata, the village was a hive of anxiety and tension. The council had gathered in the Hokage's office, their expressions filled with fear and uncertainty. Hiruzen and Sarutobi sat at the head of the table, flanked by Jiraiya, Homura, and Koharu. Across from them, Danzo sat in stoic silence, his one visible eye gleaming with dangerous intent. "We cannot delay action any longer," Danzo said, his voice cutting through the tense air. "Naruto has become an uncontrollable force, a threat to not just Kanata, but the entire shinobi world. We must act now." Hiruzen closed his eyes, exhaling deeply. The third Hokage had always carried the weight of difficult decisions, but none had ever felt as heavy as this. Naruto was more than just a dangerous rogue ninja, he was like a walking disaster waiting to happen. But Naruto was still that boy they once tried to protect, the one he had believed in. A part of Hiruzen still hoped that there was a way to save him, to bring him back from the abyss. "Danzo," Jiraiya interjected, his tone sharp, "don't be so quick to label Naruto as a lost cause. He's still one of us. There has to be another way." Danzo's gaze remained cold and calculating. "This is not about sentiment, Jiraiya. This is about survival. Naruto possesses the power that none of us can contain. If he decides to turn that power against the village, Konoha will be reduced to ashes. You've seen it for yourself." Jiraiya clenched his fists, his mind flashing back to their confrontation. He couldn't deny the truth in Danzo's words. Naruto's power was beyond anything they had ever seen. But to give up on him so easily, it wasn't something he could accept. "Enough," Hiruzen said, raising his hand to silence the argument. His old eyes, burdened by decades of leadership, softened as he spoke. "We cannot make decisions based purely on fear. Naruto is a product of this village. We must find a way to bring him back, if we can. And if we can't?" Koharu asked, her voice trembling. "What then, Lord Hokage?" Hiruzen's gaze grew distant. "If we cannot, then we will have no choice but to treat him as a threat to the village. But that will be our last resort." Danzo's lips twisted into a thin smile. "Then I will prepare my forces accordingly. I have operators who are ready to act." Hiruzen shot Danzo a sharp look, knowing exactly what kind of operators he meant. "This is not the time for rude to overstep its bounds. We will proceed with caution." Danzo said nothing, merely inclining his head in acknowledgement, though it was clear he had his own plans. As the council meeting concluded, Jiraiya stayed behind, his thoughts heavy. He hadn't told the council everything, not the full extent of what Naruto had become. Even he wasn't sure how to describe the force that Naruto now commanded. The symbiote-like darkness, the sheer presence of Knull's influence, it was something beyond the world of shinobi. "We're running out of time," Jiraiya muttered to himself as he stepped outside, feeling the weight of the village on his shoulders. He had to find a way to reach Naruto, if not as his sensei, then as someone who had once believed in him. Far from Kanata, Naruto roamed through the wilds, aimlessly yet with a purpose only he understood. He could feel the eyes of the world on him now. His presence, his power, was beginning to riddle through the fabric of reality itself. Creatures fled from him, the skies seemed darker where he walked, and the air itself was heavy with malice. Yet, as he traveled, something inside him stirred a pull, faint but persistent. He was being watched. Naruto stopped in a clearing, his senses heightened. He could feel the presence approaching. The darkness within him bristled with anticipation, and his lips curled into a faint smirk. "Come out," he said calmly, his voice resonating with the weight of his power. There was a rustle in the bushes, and a figure emerged, a lone man with a cold, indifferent expression and a familiar pair of Sharingan spinning in his eyes. "Sasuke," Naruto said, almost amused. "I thought you'd show up sooner or later." Sasuke stepped forward, his eyes never leaving Naruto. "You've changed, Naruto." Naruto chuckled, his tone mocking. "And you haven't. Still chasing after scraps of power, I see. What do you want?" Sasuke's eyes narrowed. He could sense it, the overwhelming force that radiated from Naruto. It was unlike anything he had encountered. Even his presence paled in comparison. But Sasuke wasn't intimidated. He had his own reasons for seeking Naruto out. "I want power," Sasuke said, his voice steady. "I needed to defeat my brother, to end the Uchiha bloodline once and for all. And you have that power now." Naruto's smirk widened. "You think I'll just give it to you? You think you're worthy of it?" Sasuke didn't flinch. "I'll take it if I have to." For a moment, there was silence between them. Then Naruto's eyes darkened, the symbiotic entity swirling around him like a living storm. "You're a fool, Sasuke," Naruto said, his voice filled with contempt. "You think you can control this power? It's not something you can just take. It'll devour you, body and soul. You're not strong enough for it." Sasuke's Sharingan spun, his eyes filled with determination. "I don't care. I'll do whatever it takes." Naruto's laughter echoed through the clearing, dark and hollow. "Then come and take it, if you can." Without hesitation, Sasuke lunged forward, his Sharingan blazing, his Chidori crackling with electricity. He was faster than he had ever been, but Naruto was faster still. The shadows surged up around him, forming a wall of pure black energy that deflected Sasuke's attack effortlessly. Sasuke skidded back, his breath heavy, but his resolve unwavering. He wouldn't give up. Not now. Naruto watched him with cold amusement, his expression unreadable. "You'll never learn, Sasuke. Always chasing something you'll never understand." With a flick of his hand, the darkness shot forward, faster than Sasuke could react. It wrapped around him, binding him in place, lifting him on the ground as he struggled against the crushing force. "You'll never be more than what you are now," Naruto said, his voice filled with disdain. A boy lost in the shadow of his own hatred. Sasuke gritted his teeth, his Sharingan glowing with intensity as he fought to break free, but the darkness was too strong. It constricted around him like a living thing, squeezing the air from his lungs. Naruto stepped closer, his eyes glowing with that eerie, godlike light. "I'm not your enemy, Sasuke. I'm something far beyond that. But if you keep pushing, I'll end you." For a moment, there was silence. Sasuke's struggles weakened, and Naruto stared at him, his expression cold. "You're not worth killing," Naruto finally said, releasing his hold. Sasuke dropped to the ground, gasping for air, his body trembling from the sheer pressure he had just felt. Naruto turned his back to him, the darkness around him beginning to dissipate. "Go back to Konoha. Or don't. It doesn't matter to me anymore." Sasuke, still on his knees, glared at Naruto with a mixture of rage and frustration, but he knew he wasn't strong enough. Not yet. Not even close. And as Naruto walked away, disappearing into the shadows, Sasuke realized just how far he had fallen behind. Naruto was no longer a part of their world. He was something else entirely. Sasuke sat there, panting and clutching the ground as he watched Naruto disappear into the darkness. His body ached from the pressure Naruto had unleashed on him, but it wasn't the pain that stunned the most. It was the realization of just how insignificant he was in the face of that overwhelming power. Naruto hadn't even taken him seriously. The Chidori still crackled faintly in Sasuke's hand, but it felt pointless now. He had always prided himself on his strength, his drive for vengeance, his need to surpass Itachi. But Naruto, the dead last from their academy days, had transcended all of that. Sasuke's hatred, his ambition, seemed almost childish compared to the abyss of darkness that Naruto had embraced. And what was worse, Naruto didn't care. He had become something so far removed from their rivalry, from the petty squabbles of shinobi, that even Sasuke's vengeance seemed like a fleeting distraction. But no, Sasuke clenched his fists, anger flaring once again. He wouldn't be cast aside like this. He wouldn't let Naruto, or anyone else, decide his fate. He would gain power whatever it took. If Naruto could ascend to such heights, so could he. Even if it meant walking a darker path. With renewed determination, Sasuke rose to his feet. His body screamed in protest, but he forced himself to stand tall. He would not be broken by this. He wouldn't allow it. There was a way forward, there always was. As Sasuke made his way back toward the village, his mind raced. He would need to seek out new power, more than what the village could offer. Orochimaru, the thought of him made Sasuke uneasy, but at this point, he knew he needed to consider all his options. The Snake Sunin had promised him strength, and Sasuke no longer had the luxury of ignoring such offers. Naruto continued his journey through the wilderness, indifferent to the confrontation he'd just had with Sasuke. It was nothing to him, a minor nuisance in the grander scheme. Sasuke, like everyone else, was still trapped in the confines of human emotions, of revenge, of ambitions that no longer held any weight in Naruto's mind. The darkness inside him pulsed, a steady rhythm that echoed with Knull's ancient desires. But even those desires felt muted to Naruto. Yes, there was a hunger for destruction, for domination, but more than that, there was a cold emptiness. The void that Knull had once embraced now filled Naruto's heart, and with it came a sense of clarity. Nothing mattered anymore. The world itself was fragile, fleeting. Humans, shinobi, nations, they all crumbled in the face of eternity. Naruto's connection to Knull's memories reminded him of the cosmic wars Knull had fought, the gods he had slain. The light was always so desperate to cling to existence, while the darkness was content to erase it all. Naruto walked until he found himself in a desolate forest, the trees twisted and gnarled, their branches like skeletal hands reaching toward the sky. He stopped in the center of the clearing, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on him. But the world was nothing to him now. The shadows coiled around him, whispering in a language older than time, older than the very concept of life. Naruto let the darkness seep into him, consuming what little was left of his humanity. His former ambitions becoming Hokage, being acknowledged by the village, they were distant echoes now. Hollow dreams of a life that no longer existed. As he stood there, the darkness within him expanded, reaching out into the world like tendrils of ink. He could feel the presence of the Nine Tails, buried deep within him, but even Kurama was quiet, subdued by the overwhelming power that Knull's essence provided. Naruto. Kurama's voice finally broke through the silence, a low, rumbling growl in the back of his mind. You've changed. Naruto's expression didn't shift. His once vibrant blue eyes were now cold, devoid of any spark of life. I've become what I was meant to be, he replied, his voice almost mechanical. Kurama, for the first time in years, felt an unfamiliar sensation, fear. Not of Naruto, but of what he had become. The boy he had once despised but begrudgingly respected was gone, replaced by something ancient. Something that even the Baijuyu could not comprehend. Are you just going to let this darkness consume you? Kurama asked, though he already knew the answer. Naruto didn't respond for a long time, letting the silence hang in the air. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet but filled with an unshakable finality. This is who I am now. The old Naruto is dead. Kurama, for once, had nothing to say. Back in Kanata, the village was on high alert. Word of Naruto's power and his transformation had spread quickly, and the shinobi forces were preparing for the worst. The Hokage's office was filled with tension, the air thick with uncertainty. Naruto's a threat now, one of the jonin said, slamming his fist on the table. We need to find him and neutralize him before he brings the darkness here. Jiraiya, standing near the window with his arms crossed, remained silent. His eyes were heavy with regret. He had failed. Naruto, the boy he had trained, had slipped beyond his grasp, beyond anyone's reach. He wasn't sure if Naruto could be saved or if he even wanted to be. The boy is lost, Danzo said, his voice cold and matter of fact. We should consider him an enemy of the village from this point forward. We can't afford to let him roam free. Tsunade, who had recently returned to the village, glared at Danzo. He's not just some rogue ninja, Danzo. He's still one of ours. Danzo didn't flinch. He's no longer the Naruto we knew. He's become something else, something dangerous. If we don't act now, we'll regret it. Tsunade clenched her fists, but even she knew that Danzo had a point. She had read the reports. Naruto's transformation, his newfound power, it was beyond anything they could handle. Even Jiraiya, one of the legendary Sannin, had been unable to stop him. What do we do then? Chikakanara asked, his normally laid-back demeanor replaced by a deep concern. Naruto's not going to come back willingly. And if we force him, it could end badly for all of us. Hiruzen, the third Hokage, sat in his chair, his old eyes filled with sorrow. He had seen many of his students, friends, and comrades fall into darkness, but Naruto's situation was different. He had become something far more dangerous than any rogue ninja or missing nin. We can let him roam free, Hiruzen finally said, his voice quiet but firm. But we can't treat him as an ordinary enemy either. We need to find him, and if there's still any part of him left, we must try to bring him back. Danzo opened his mouth to argue, but Hiruzen silenced him with a sharp glare. I will not condemn the boy without giving him a chance. The room fell into uneasy silence, the weight of the situation pressing down on everyone. Naruto was out there, somewhere, with the power of a god, and no one knew what he would do next. Jiraiya finally turned to face them, his voice low and filled with the same sorrow that burdened Hiruzen. I'll find him, he said. I'll try to reach him. The council members exchanged uncertain glances, but no one objected. If anyone had a chance of reaching Naruto, it was Jiraiya. But even he knew the odds were slim. As the meeting adjourned, Jiraiya stood alone for a moment, staring out the window at the village below. His heart ached for Naruto, for the boy who had once dreamed of becoming Hokage. He had to believe that some part of that boy was still in there, buried deep beneath the darkness. But if not, Jiraiya's expression hardened. He would do what needed to be done. Far from the village, in the silence of the desolate forest, Naruto stood alone, staring up at the darkening sky. The world felt so small now, so distant. His senses stretched far beyond the mortal realm, into the cosmos itself. He no longer cared for the village, for the people who had once shunned him, or even for the friends who had stood by him. They were all insignificant now. The only thing that mattered was power, the darkness that surged within him, and the endless void that beckoned him toward something far greater than a shinobi world. Naruto's gaze shifted downward, his expression unreadable. He had no more use for the light. Only the void remained. And soon, the world would know the true power of the darkness he had embraced. As the shadows deepened around him, Naruto felt a shift in the atmosphere. The air crackled with energy as the darkness surged within him, reacting to the pull of the cosmos. A deep hunger gnawed at his core, a primal urge to dominate, to obliterate anything that dared to challenge his existence. He was Knull's reincarnation, and with that came the weight of untold power, yet also a haunting loneliness that echoed in the depths of his being. With each passing moment, the landscape around him transformed, the trees twisting and curling like grotesque sculptures. The ground beneath his feet began to pulse with a life of its own, darkness seeping into the earth and claiming it as his own. It was exhilarating, a reminder of the chaos he could unleash upon the world. But there was something else, an undercurrent of fear that lingered at the back of his mind. It was the lingering essence of Naruto Uzumaki fighting against the darkness. He could feel the remnants of his old self clinging to the edges, trying to forge some semblance of a moral compass, some thread of humanity. Enough, he growled, clenching his fists. I am no longer bound by that weakness. The shadows responded to his command, swirling around him, forming a cloak of pure blackness that shifted like liquid night. Back in Kanata, Jiraiya prepared for his journey, packing his essentials and steeling himself for the confrontation ahead. The weight of the village rested heavily on his shoulders, but more than that, the weight of Naruto's fate hung like a guillotine above him. He had to find a way to reach Naruto, to remind him of who he was beneath the darkness. Jiraiya-sensei. A voice called from behind him. He turned to see Hinata standing at the doorway, her face pale and filled with concern. Hinata, Jiraiya acknowledged, forcing a reassuring smile. You shouldn't be here. It's not safe. I know, but, she hesitated, looking down. I can't just stand by and do nothing. Naruto, he's in pain. We all know it. I want to help him. Jiraiya felt a swell of pride at her courage but also a twinge of worry. I appreciate that, but this is something I need to handle on my own. The power Naruto has now, it's unlike anything we've faced before. Hinata shook her head, her determination unwavering. I can't let you face him alone. I know he can hear us, deep down. He still cares, I believe that. Please, let me come with you. After a long pause, Jiraiya sighed. If you're set on this, I won't stop you. Just promise me you'll stay back and let me handle the fight if it comes to that. Thank you, Jiraiya-sensei, she said, relief flooding her features. I won't let you down. Meanwhile, Naruto ventured deeper into the forest, the shadows coiling tighter around him, feeding on his thoughts, his desires. The whispers grew louder, echoing with promises of unimaginable power, of a world free from the constraints of morality. He let the darkness wash over him, relishing the sensation of being unfettered and unbound. But with each step, he felt an unsettling pull in his gut, a nagging thought that something wasn't right. The shadows responded to his inner turmoil, flickering like flames caught in a sudden breeze. The essence of Knull was in constant dialogue with him, urging him to embrace his true form, to unleash chaos upon the world. Why do you hesitate? Knull's voice resonated in his mind, rich and compelling. You are beyond the limits of human emotion. You are a god among insects. Let the world burn. I don't want to be just a weapon, Naruto replied, his voice filled with defiance. I want to be more than that. But I don't want to destroy everything. Destruction is freedom, Knull insisted, the darkness swirling in tandem with his emotions. You will understand when you are ready. But for now, you must cast aside your doubts. Naruto stumbled, clutching his head as Knull's influence surged through him like a tidal wave. The memories of his life in Konoha surged, vivid flashes of laughter, camaraderie, and the bonds he had forged. Friends and allies Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, people who had once believed in him. Useless memories, Knull hissed. They weigh you down. You will only find strength in solitude. No. Naruto shouted, his voice piercing the silence of the forest. The shadows around him began to ripple, reacting to his internal conflict. I won't give in. For a moment, there was a stillness, a heavy silence that wrapped around him like a shroud. Then, like a dam breaking, the shadows surged forth, roaring with fury, eager to be unleashed. Jiraiya and Hinata traveled through the dense forest, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. Each step they took resonated with the tension building between them and Naruto. Jiraiya could feel the impending clash, the potential for chaos hanging in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. Do you think we can actually reach him? Hinata asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jiraiya glanced at her, the resolve in her eyes shining brightly. I believe we can. We just have to remind him of what truly matters: his friends, his home. The bonds he formed. Hinata nodded, but uncertainty flickered across her face. What if he's too far gone? What if he doesn't want to come back? We have to try, Jiraiya said firmly, determination setting his jaw. He's still Naruto, deep down. I refuse to believe that he's lost forever. They continued onward, the sounds of the forest fading as they neared the clearing where Jiraiya sensed Naruto's energy emanating. It felt like a dark beacon in the night, an ominous glow that made the hair on the back of his neck stand on end. Suddenly, a powerful force surged through the air, a shockwave of pure energy that knocked them both off their feet. Jiraiya quickly rolled to his feet, his heart racing. Naruto. He could feel the intensity of the darkness, a palpable aura that made the air thick and suffocating. He exchanged a glance with Hinata, her expression filled with both fear and determination. Let's go. Jiraiya shouted, racing toward the source of the energy. Dash. Back in the clearing, Naruto stood tall, shadows swirling around him like a tempest. His eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, the remnants of his humanity overshadowed by Knull's influence. The forest trembled with the weight of his power, branches cracking and falling under the pressure. The whispers of the void enveloped him, urging him to unleash the chaos within. He could feel the power coursing through his veins, raw and unbridled. This was what he had craved, the ultimate freedom that came with such strength. But just as he was about to give in, he sensed a presence approaching, a familiar chakra that broke through the haze of darkness. Jiraiya's voice echoed in his mind, a haunting reminder of a life he was trying to leave behind. Naruto, remember who you are? The shadows faltered, wavering as the memories flooded back, laughing with Sakura, training with Kakashi, the bonds of friendship forged through hardship. Each memory clashed violently against the darkness that sought to consume him. No. Naruto roared, the darkness around him surging violently. I won't let them back in. But the memories continued to flood his mind, fighting against the oppressive weight of Knull's influence. Jiraiya's voice rang true, pulling him back from the precipice of oblivion. Come back to us, Naruto. Make it stop, he screamed, his voice filled with anguish. The shadows pulsed wildly, forming grotesque shapes that writhed and twisted around him, mirroring the chaos within. Dash. As Jiraiya and Hinata reached the edge of the clearing, they halted in shock at the sight before them. The entire forest seemed alive, shadows battling against a raw, chaotic energy that radiated from Naruto. Stay back. Jiraiya warned, sensing the intensity of the situation. He's losing control. He made his heart ache at the sight of Naruto, torn between the darkness and the light. She could see the struggle in his eyes, the battle between his true self and the monstrous entity he had become. Naruto. Hinata called out, her voice piercing through the chaos. Please. We believe in you. You can fight this. Naruto's eyes flickered toward her, the shadows momentarily parting as the remnants of his humanity surged to the forefront. Hinata. Jiraiya. You shouldn't have come. We're not leaving you. Jiraiya shouted, his voice filled with urgency. You are not alone. Fight it. You are Naruto Uzumaki. The darkness howled around him, the shadows rising like a storm. No. You cannot take him from me. Knull's voice echoed within the chaos, filled with rage and defiance. He is mine. Get out of my head. Naruto roared, clutching his head as he fought against the overwhelming pressure. I am not yours. He made a step forward, her heart pounding in her chest. Naruto. Remember what we've been through together. Remember your dreams, your friendships. You are stronger than this darkness. For a moment, the shadows hesitated, and Naruto fell to his knees, gasping for breath. The dark energy swirled around him, coiling like a snake ready to strike, but the memories of his friends burned brighter than ever. The shadows recoiled as if they were alive, quaking under the weight of Naruto's defiance. "You're right," he murmured, his voice strained but resolute. "I won't let you take me." The forest trembled with renewed intensity as Naruto began to rise, his resolve solidifying. The darkness hissed in outrage, its grip on him weakening as he tapped into the very essence of his true self. "Get out of my way!" Naruto roared, his voice resonating through the clearing. "I am Naruto Uzumaki. I will not be controlled." The shadows writhed, torn between their master and the boy fighting for his identity. With one final surge of will, Naruto erupted with a brilliant burst of light, the shadows dissipating into nothingness as he reclaimed control of his body and mind. In the clearing, Jiraiya and Hinata watched in awe as the chaos finally subsided. The darkness lifted, leaving behind a battered but resolute Naruto, his breathing heavy but his eyes glowing with life. "Naruto!" Hinata rushed to his side, relief flooding her senses. "You did it. You fought him off." Naruto looked at her, the warmth of her presence washing over him like a soothing balm. I didn't know if I could," he admitted, his voice shaky. Jiraiya placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder, pride swelling in his heart. "You're stronger than you realize, Naruto. You fought off a darkness that would have consumed anyone else." But deep down, Naruto knew this battle was just a beginning. Knull's presence still lingered, a reminder that the darkness would always be a part of him. He would have to learn to coexist with it, to harness that power without letting it consume him completely. "I don't know what will happen next," Naruto said quietly, looking up at the sky. "But I won't let the darkness win. I will protect my friends and my village, no matter what." Jiraiya smiled, a glimmer of hope lighting his features. "That's the spirit, Naruto. We'll face whatever comes next together." As they stood together, a renewed sense of purpose filling the air, the shadows faded into the distance, leaving behind a promise of resilience and strength. Together, they would confront the challenges ahead, united against the darkness that threatened their world. The battle within Naruto was far from over, but for now, he had won a crucial victory against the void. And with the bonds of friendship guiding him, he was ready to face whatever came next. As the last remnants of darkness faded from the clearing, Naruto felt a weight lift off his shoulders. The world around him seemed vibrant once more, the colors of the forest shining through the haze of chaos. He turned to Jiraiya and Hinata, their faces lit with relief and determination. "Let's get back to the village," Jiraiya suggested, scanning the treeline for any signs of further disturbances. "We need to regroup and figure out how to deal with Knull's influence permanently." Naruto nodded, grateful for the support of his friends. He couldn't let the darkness define him any longer. "Right. I won't let it control me again." As they made their way back to Knull, Naruto felt a flicker of uncertainty still lingering within him. Knull's essence had been momentarily subdued, but he could sense the potential for it to rise again. The void that resided in him was not just a curse, it was also a source of immense power, and he needed to learn to wield it without succumbing to its seductive call. "Hey, Naruto," Hinata said quietly, breaking the silence that hung between them. "Are you okay?" "Yeah," he replied, forcing a smile. "Just trying to process everything." "It's a lot." Hinata looked at him with a mix of concern and admiration. "You're incredibly strong. You faced something that could have easily broken anyone else, and you fought back. I'm proud of you." "Thanks, Hinata," Naruto said, his heart warming at her words. "I couldn't have done it without you and Jiraiya-sensei." "I mean it." Jiraiya smiled, his usual goofy demeanor returning. "Of course. That's what we're here for, right? To watch your back, no matter what kind of cosmic being you're facing." The journey back to Konoha felt different. The air was charged with an unspoken promise of unity and strength. With each step, Naruto found himself growing more determined to confront the darkness within him, to ensure that he would never again be a prisoner to Knull's influence. When they arrived at the village, the streets buzzed with a mix of anxiety and relief. News of Naruto's transformation and the battle against the darkness had already spread, sending shockwaves through Konoha. The villagers had witnessed the chaos that nearly enveloped their home, and the thought of Naruto, one of their own, falling into darkness filled them with dread. As they approached the Hokage office, Naruto felt the weight of their gazes upon him. Fear, concern, and uncertainty mingled with curiosity. "Don't worry, everyone," he called out, raising a hand to reassure the villagers. "I'm still here. I'm okay. I won't let anything happen to Konoha." Some villagers hesitated, unsure of whether to trust his words. Others nodded in response, but the fear lingered in their eyes. Naruto clenched his fists, feeling the pressure of their expectations. He had to prove himself, not just to them, but to himself as well. Inside the Hokage's office, Tsunade sat behind her desk, her expression a mix of relief and concern as she saw Naruto, Jiraiya, and Hinata enter. "Thank goodness you're safe," she said, her voice steady but laced with worry. "But we need to talk about what happened. This darkness, it's a serious threat." "Yeah, I know," Naruto replied, taking a seat in front of her desk. "I felt its power. It's still in me, but I'm learning to control it." Tsunade looked at him with a mix of skepticism and hope. "You've faced a great danger, Naruto. But I need to understand what Knull is capable of. This isn't just about you anymore. The entire village could be at risk." Jiraiya nodded in agreement. "We need to gather intel and figure out how to deal with the remnants of that darkness. If it can influence Naruto, it can potentially affect others as well." Hinata leaned forward, her eyes filled with determination. "We should also consider training together. If Naruto can learn to wield that power, maybe we can find a way to counteract Knull's influence." "Training together sounds like a good plan," Tsunade said, nodding. "But we also need to prepare for the worst. I want to call a meeting with the other villages, warn them about Knull and what he could mean for the world." Naruto felt a rush of urgency. "I can help with that. I want to speak to the other leaders. I don't want to hide from this power anymore. I want to face it head on." Tsunade studied him for a moment, her expression softening. "If that's what you want, I'll support you. But be careful. This darkness is ancient and cunning. It will not go down without a fight." Days turned into weeks as Naruto, Hinata, and Jiraiya prepared for the upcoming meeting with the other villages. They trained tirelessly, honing their skills and learning to blend their chakra with Naruto's new abilities. The shadows within him became less of a burden and more of a tool, a weapon he could wield in defense of his loved ones. Hinata proved to be an invaluable partner in their training. Together, they developed a technique that combined her gentle fist style with Naruto's shadow manipulation. The result was an impressive display of power that allowed them to subdue even the wildest of shadowy manifestations. One evening, after an especially grueling training session, Naruto and Hinata sat on the grass outside the village, catching their breath. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow across the landscape. "Hinata," Naruto said, looking up at the vibrant colors in the sky, "I'm really grateful for everything you've done. You've always believed in me, even when I was at my lowest." Hinata blushed slightly, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I just want to see you happy, Naruto. You've worked so hard for this, and you deserve to be free from that darkness." Naruto smiled, feeling a warmth spread through his chest. "I'll make sure to protect everyone. No matter what happens, I won't let anyone down again." Together, Hinata said softly, her eyes sparkling with determination. "We'll face this together." The day of the meeting with the other villages arrived, and the tension in Konoha was palpable. Shinobi from all over the land gathered in a central plaza, their eyes filled with curiosity and unease as they awaited Naruto's address. Tsunade stood beside him on a raised platform, her expression serious. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice carrying over the crowd. "We have an urgent matter to discuss, one that affects not just our village, but all of you." Naruto stepped forward, feeling the weight of their gazes upon him. He took a deep breath, channeling his resolve. "Everyone, I know there are concerns about what I've become. About the darkness that once consumed me. But I want you to understand that I am still me. I'm still Naruto Uzumaki. The crowd murmured, some expressions skeptical, others hopeful. He could feel the tension in the air, the fear that accompanied uncertainty. I've fought against that darkness, he continued, his voice steady. Knull's essence is a part of me, but it doesn't control me. I refuse to let it dictate my life or the lives of those I care about. I'm here to protect our world. The crowd shifted, their expressions a mix of disbelief and awe. The leaders of the other villages exchanged glances, some nodding in understanding while others appeared unconvinced. I know it won't be easy, Naruto pressed on, the urgency in his voice rising. But we need to unite against any threats that arise. If Knull is still out there, if there are remnants of his power, we must face them together. Tsunade stepped forward, adding her weight to Naruto's words. We are stronger united. It is time for all of us to come together as allies, not enemies. We have faced darkness before, but we can face it again. As Naruto looked out at the gathered shinobi, he saw hope beginning to bloom. They were starting to believe in his words. The fear that had clouded their eyes was slowly giving way to determination. Together, Naruto declared, raising his fist high, we can protect our world. We will not back down. The crowd erupted into cheers, the tension lifting as unity replaced fear. Naruto felt a surge of warmth, his resolve solidifying. He was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, both the darkness within him and the potential threats that loomed on the horizon. As the meeting concluded, Naruto felt a renewed sense of purpose. With the backing of the other villages, he knew they could take on Knull's remnants. He glanced at Hinata, who stood nearby, her expression bright with optimism. We did it, she said, her smile infectious. They believe in you, Naruto? Yeah, he replied, his heart swelling with pride. But this is just the beginning. We need to prepare for whatever comes next. Jiraiya approached them, a grin on his face. That was impressive, Naruto. You really rallied everyone together. I'm proud of you. Thanks, Jiraiya-sensei, Naruto said, feeling his sense of camaraderie. I couldn't have done it without you both. As they began to strategize their next steps, a shadow flickered across the ground, catching Naruto's attention. He looked up, his heart racing. As he sensed a familiar darkness creeping closer. The remnants of Knull's power were still out there, waiting for the right moment to strike. Stay alert, Naruto warned, his senses sharpening. We're not done yet. Days turned into nights, and Naruto, Hinata, and Jiraiya continued their training, prepared for any sign of Knull's return. They honed their skills, embracing the shadows within Naruto while also solidifying their bonds as allies. Naruto learned to summon and manipulate the darkness, shaping it into powerful techniques that could defend against whatever threats emerged. But even as they trained, the sense of impending danger loomed larger. It wasn't long before rumors began to spread of strange occurrences in the neighboring villages, people disappearing, dark entities surfacing, and a growing sense of dread permeating the air. The day came when Tsunade called them into her office once more, her expression grave. We've received reports of dark beings attacking nearby villages, she said, her voice steady but laced with concern. It appears that Knull's influence is spreading. Naruto's fists clenched at his sides. We have to do something. We can't let them suffer because of me. Jiraiya placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. We'll face this together. We'll stop Knull's remnants before they can cause any more harm. Hinata nodded, determination shining in her eyes. We can't let fear dictate our actions. We must protect those who can't protect themselves. Tsunade nodded, her expression resolute. I want you three to lead a team to investigate these attacks. Gather intel, and if necessary, eliminate any threats. We need to show that Konoha will not stand idly by while this darkness spreads. As they prepared to leave, Naruto felt a mix of anticipation and trepidation. The shadows within him thrummed with energy, eager to be unleashed. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. "Let's go," he said, his voice steady. "We'll put an end to this darkness, once and for all." With that, they set out, ready to confront the remnants of Knull's power. They were determined to protect their home and their friends, united against the encroaching shadows. As they traveled, Naruto reflected on the journey that had brought him to this point. He had faced darkness, fought against it, and emerged stronger than ever. The shadows within him were no longer a curse but a part of his identity, something he would wield with pride. He would protect Kanata, his friends, and the bonds he held dear, no matter the cost. Knull's influence would not defy him. He would become the beacon of hope against the encroaching darkness, ready to embrace his destiny as the guardian of the ninja world. And so, they pressed forward, into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them. As Naruto, Hinata, and Jiraiya set out from Kanata, the sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the landscape. But the serenity of the moment did little to quell the storm brewing within Naruto. Each step he took was a reminder of the gravity of their mission and the darkness they sought to confront. The trio traveled swiftly, heading toward the nearest village affected by the disturbances. Along the way, they exchanged strategies and discussed what they knew of Knull's remnants. With every village they passed, the tension in the air thickened, and the unease among the people grew more palpable. As they approached the village of Tanzaku, the sight that greeted them was grim. Houses were charred, and the ground was littered with debris, evidence of a violent attack. Villagers moved cautiously, their expressions filled with fear and despair. It was a stark reminder of what they were fighting against. "This doesn't look good," Jiraiya muttered, scanning the area. "We need to find survivors and gather information." Naruto nodded, his resolve hardening. "Let's split up and see what we can find. Be careful, everyone. We don't know if the threat is still here." As they moved through the village, Naruto felt a strange sensation wash over him like a distant echo calling to him from the shadows. He shook his head, pushing the feeling aside. He had a mission to focus on. Hinata moved swiftly beside him, her Byakudan activated. "I can sense Chakra's signatures up ahead," she said, pointing toward the remnants of what appeared to be a gathering place. "There might be survivors there." They hurried toward the source, their hearts pounding in their chests. When they arrived, they found a group of villagers huddled together, their faces pale and eyes wide with fear. Naruto's heart sank at the sight of their desperation. "Hey," he called out, his voice steady but gentle. "It's okay. We are here to help. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and these are my friends, Hinata and Jiraiya. We want to make sure you are safe." One of the villagers, an elderly woman, stepped forward, her hands trembling. "You're the one they talk about. The one who faced the darkness. Please, you must help us. We were attacked by monsters from the shadows." "Monsters?" Hinata asked, concern etched on her face. "What did they look like?" "They were like living shadows," the woman stammered, her voice shaky. "They came in the night, snatching people away. We tried to fight back, but they were too powerful." Naruto felt a surge of anger at the thought of innocents being terrorized. "Did you see where they went?" he asked, determination hardening his voice. The woman pointed shakily down a darkened alley. "They retreated that way after the attack. We lost so many. Stay here and keep each other safe," Jiraiya instructed, his tone firm. "We'll track them down." Naruto turned to Hinata and Jiraiya, his eyes filled with determination. "Let's go." The alley was shrouded in darkness, the air thick with an unsettling silence. Naruto felt the shadows pressing in around him, their presence both familiar and disquieting. He could sense the energy of the remnants lurking nearby, a potent reminder of Knull's influence. "I can sense them," Hinata said, her eyes scanning the surroundings. "There's a group not far from here. Let's move quietly," Jiraiya suggested. "We don't want to alert them to our presence." As they advanced, Naruto felt the energy within him swirling, the darkness intertwining with his chakra. He took a deep breath, focusing on the sensations. He had to harness that power, learn to use it without letting it consume him. "Stay close," he whispered, his senses sharpening. "We'll catch them by surprise." They crept deeper into the alley until they reached the clearing. The sight that met their eyes was a nightmare brought to life. Shadows coalesced into grotesque forms, twisted, dark entities that writhed and flickered, their eyes glowing with malice. "There they are," Jiraiya muttered, gripping his staff tightly. "Get ready." Naruto stepped forward, feeling the darkness within him stir in response to the creatures. He could feel their energy, their hunger, and it resonated with something deep inside him. "We're here to stop you," he shouted, his voice echoing through the alley. The shadows twisted and turned, their forms shifting as they responded to Naruto's challenge. One of them lunged forward, a mass of darkness that surged toward him. "Hinata, now!" Naruto yelled, channeling his energy. In an instant, Hinata activated her gentle fist, launching herself at the shadow creature. She struck with precision, her chakra flowing through her palm as she disrupted its form. The creature hissed, recoiling in pain, but it was far from defeated. "Stay focused," Jiraiya shouted, unleashing a barrage of elemental jutsu. "We need to weaken them before we can take them down." The air crackled with energy as Jiraiya's attacks rained down, pushing back several of the shadowy figures. But the remaining creatures were relentless, darting in and out of the shadows, trying to outmaneuver Naruto and his friends. "Let me try something," Naruto said, feeling the darkness within him surge. He concentrated, summoning the shadows to his command. Shadow Clone Jutsu. In an instant, dozens of Naruto clones appeared, each one imbued with the same determination. "Surround them. Let's take them down." The clones charged at the shadow creatures, overwhelming them with numbers. Naruto felt the connection between him and the clones, a synergy that amplified his strength. Together, they pushed the dark entities back, slowly gaining the upper hand. But the shadows were not easily subdued. They began to merge together, forming a larger, more powerful entity that loomed ominously before them. Its eyes glowed with an unsettling light, and it let out a piercing wail that echoed through the alley. "This isn't good," Jiraiya said, his eyes widening as he recognized the shift in power. "We need to focus our attacks, or we won't stand a chance." Naruto clenched his fists, channeling the darkness within him. "I won't let it take us. We can do this." He made a step beside him, her expression fierce. Together, as the massive shadow lunged forward, they launched their combined attack. Naruto summoned the essence of the void within him, shaping it into a massive wave of energy. "Raisin Shuriken," he shouted, hurling the swirling energy toward the shadow entity. Hinata unleashed her own technique, adding her chakra to the attack. Gentle Step Twin Lion Fists. The dual attacks surged forward, merging their powers into a single, blinding beam of light. The collision was explosive. The shadows shrieked as the light engulfed them, illuminating the alley with a brilliant glow. Naruto felt the power of his jutsu resonating with the very essence of the darkness he wielded, creating a harmony that pushed back the void. For a moment, the shadows hesitated, their forms flickering in the light. And then, with one final cry, they were consumed, dissipating into nothingness. Dash. As the dust settled, Naruto stood panting, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He looked around at the remnants of the battle, the alley now eerily quiet. The shadows had been defeated, but the feeling of unease remained. "Is everyone okay?" he asked, turning to Hinata and Jiraiya. "We're fine," Jiraiya replied, a grin spreading across his face. "You did it, Naruto. That was amazing." Hinata smiled, her eyes sparkling. "You were incredible. We really worked well together." Naruto felt a rush of pride at their praise, but the shadows in his mind whispered ominously. He had wielded Knull's power to defeat the darkness, but the question loomed, could he control it? "Let's check on the villagers," he said, shaking off the uncertainty. "We need to make sure they are safe." As they retraced their steps back to the huddled group of survivors, Naruto felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, but the battle against Knull's influence was far from over. When they returned to the villagers, they found them waiting anxiously. The elderly woman stepped forward, her eyes wide with disbelief. You defeated them." "Yeah," Naruto replied, a smile breaking through the tension. "You're safe now. We'll make sure those things don't come back." Relief washed over the villagers, and whispers of gratitude spread through the crowd. "Thank you. Thank you so much," the woman cried, tears of joy streaming down her face. He made a step forward, her gentle demeanor soothing the crowd. "We will stay and help you rebuild. You're not alone anymore." As the villagers expressed their gratitude, Naruto felt a sense of fulfillment. He had fought the darkness not just for himself, but for everyone. And while the shadows within him still lingered, he knew he could face them as long as he had the support of his friends. After spending time with the villagers, reassuring them and helping where they could, Naruto, Hinata, and Jiraiya gathered for a moment of reflection. "That was a close call," Jiraiya said, leaning against a nearby wall. "But we managed to hold them off for now." "Yeah, but this isn't over," Naruto replied, crossing his arms. "Knull's remnants will keep coming if we don't put an end to this." Hinata nodded, her expression serious. "We need to find out how far Knull's influence has spread. We should inform Tsunade about what we've encountered." "Right," Naruto agreed. "Let's head back to Kanata. We'll figure out a plan." As they made their way back, Naruto felt the shadows within him stirring once more. He would need to confront the deeper parts of his power and embrace his identity as the reincarnation of Knull if he hoped to protect those he cared about. The journey ahead would not be easy, but Naruto was determined. He had faced darkness before, and he would do so again, not just as a warrior, but as a protector of his world. Together with Hinata and Jiraiya, he would push forward, ready to confront whatever challenges lay ahead. And deep within him, the power of Knull throbbed with anticipation, waiting to be unleashed. As they returned to Kanata, the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the village. The atmosphere was charged with a sense of urgency. Naruto felt it in the air, a premonition that something greater loomed on the horizon. He and his friends walked through the village gates, greeted by the familiar sights and sounds that had always brought him comfort. Yet, this time, a nagging unease twisted in his gut. They made their way to the Hokage office, where Tsunade awaited their report. As they entered, she looked up from her paperwork, her expression shifting from boredom to concern as she saw the intensity on their faces. "Welcome back," Tsunade said, her voice steady but laced with curiosity. "What happened out there?" Naruto stepped forward, his heart racing as he recounted their encounter with the shadow creatures. "We found a village that had been attacked. The creatures were like living shadows, twisted and powerful. We managed to defeat them, but they seemed to be connected to Knull's influence." Tsunade leaned forward, her brows furrowing. "Knull's remnants are still out there. This isn't just a one-off incident, we need to treat it seriously. I want you three to gather more intel. See if you can discover where the shadows are coming from." "Understood," Jiraiya said, crossing his arms. "But we need to prepare for a possible large-scale attack. We should alert the other villages and share what we know." Hinata nodded, her expression resolute. "We can use our connections to warn them and gather additional forces if necessary." "Good," Tsunade said, nodding in approval. "I'll send word to the other cages. We need to stand united against this threat." The next few days were a blur of activity as Naruto, Hinata, and Jiraiya spread the word of Knull's remnants, warning the surrounding villages of the dangers lurking in the shadows. They met with various leaders and shinobi, explaining the nature of the threat and strategizing on how to confront it. As they traveled, Naruto found himself more aware of the darkness within him. It was a strange sensation, sometimes comforting, sometimes unsettling. He could feel the shadows intertwining with his chakra, amplifying his abilities but also whispering temptations in the back of his mind. "Are you okay?" Himeda asked one evening as they sat around a campfire, the stars twinkling overhead. You seem distracted. Yeah, I'm fine, Naruto replied, forcing a smile. Just thinking about everything that's happened. You're worried about Knull's influence, aren't you? Jiraiya said, his voice calm. It's understandable. You wield a power that could be overwhelming. Naruto sighed, looking into the flames. It's not just that. I've faced darkness before, but this feels different. It's like it's a part of me now, and I don't know how to control it completely. Himeda reached over, placing a reassuring hand on his arm. You're not alone in this, Naruto. We're here to help you. You're stronger than you realize, and you can control it. Yeah, Jiraiya added, leaning back against the log. The power of Knull may be formidable, but it's also a tool. As long as you stay true to yourself and your friends, you can wield it without losing yourself. Naruto felt their support wash over him like a wave. Thanks, guys. I just need to figure out how to embrace this part of me without letting it consume me. The next day, they returned to Konnati, their spirits lifted after the encouragement of their friends. Tsunade was waiting for them, her expression serious as she gestured for them to sit. I've received reports from several villages, she said, her voice steady. They've been experiencing similar attacks. It seems the remnants of Knull are more widespread than we anticipated. We need to find the source, Naruto said, leaning forward. If we can stop it at the root, we can prevent further attacks. Tsunade nodded, her gaze piercing. I agree. We've pinpointed a region to the north where the shadows seem to gather. It's an old forest, filled with dark energy. I want you three to lead a reconnaissance mission there. Understood, Jiraiya replied, his tone serious. We'll gather whatever intel we can. Naruto felt a surge of determination. Let's do this. We'll put an end to Knull's influence once and for all. The journey to the dark forest was fraught with tension. The air grew heavy with anticipation as they approached the treeline, the sunlight fading as the trees loomed overhead. The atmosphere felt charged, as if the forest itself were alive and aware of their presence. As they stepped into the shade, a chill ran down Naruto's spine. He could feel the darkness swirling around them, thrumming with an energy that resonated with his own. The shadows danced at the edges of his vision, whispering promises of power and strength. Stay alert, Himeda said, her Byakugan activated. I can sense multiple chakra signatures ahead. They pressed on cautiously, navigating through the thick underbrush. The deeper they ventured, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. Shadows flitted between the trees, almost taunting them as they moved. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the forest, causing Naruto to halt. He could feel the weight of something sinister drawing near. What was that? He whispered, tension coiling in his muscles. I'm not sure, Jiraiya replied, his gaze scanning the trees. But we need to be ready for anything. Just then, a massive shadow erupted from the trees, a monstrous entity composed entirely of darkness. It was larger than anything they had faced before, its eyes glowing a menacing red as it locked onto them. Get ready. Naruto shouted, channeling his chakra. We need to fight. The creature lunged, its massive form barreling toward them. Naruto felt the darkness within him surge, and he called upon it instinctively. Let's do this. Raisin Shuriken. The swirling energy clashed with the shadow creature, but it barely flinched, absorbing the attack as it retaliated with a powerful swipe of its claws. Naruto barely managed to dodge, rolling to the side and springing back to his feet. Himeda rushed forward, striking with her gentle fist technique. We can't let it get close, she yelled, delivering rapid blows to the creature's limbs. Jiraiya unleashed a series of elemental jutsu, trying to weaken the beast. We need to find its weakness, he shouted, frustration lacing his voice. The creature roared in defiance, swiping at them with an unnatural speed. Naruto could feel the energy of the darkness coiling within him, tempting him to embrace its full power. He hesitated for a moment, the pull of Knull's influence battling against his instincts. "No. I can control this," he shouted, feeling the determination surge within him. "I won't let you take over." Summoning every ounce of strength, Naruto focused on the shadows, channeling them into his own energy. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Dozens of clones sprang into existence, surrounding the massive creature. "Now!" Naruto commanded, leading the charge. The clones attacked from all angles, distracting the creature as Hinata continued to press her assault. As Jiraiya launched another barrage of jutsu, Naruto called forth the darkness once more. "Knull's power, I embrace you," he shouted, feeling the energy coalesce around him. The shadows responded, swirling into a powerful wave of energy that amplified his jutsu. Raisin Shuriken, combined with Knull's power. He hurled the attack toward the creature, channeling both light and darkness. The combined force struck true, engulfing the beast in a swirling vortex of energy. The creature let out a deafening roar, its form flickering as the attack took hold. Slowly, the shadows began to dissipate, the creature's power fading as the light consumed it. "Keep pushing," Hinata yelled, unleashing her final assault. "We can do this." With one final push, Naruto focused all of his energy into the attack, feeling the darkness within him resonate with purpose. "This ends now." The creature exploded into a cloud of dark energy, dissipating into the air as the remnants of its power vanished. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, replaced by a sense of relief and triumph. Breathless, Naruto, Hinata, and Jiraiya stood amidst the clearing, the remnants of the battle fading into silence. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, but the lingering sense of unease remained. "We did it," Hinata breathed, a smile breaking through her exhaustion. "We faced it together?" "Yeah," Naruto said, panting as he wiped the sweat from his brow. "But there's still so much we don't know about Knull's influence. We need to figure out where it's coming from." Jiraiya nodded, his expression serious. "And we should regroup. Tsunade will want to know about this." As they made their way back through the forest, Naruto felt a mixture of triumph and apprehension. They had faced darkness, wielded it, and emerged stronger. Yet, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The shadows would always linger, but he was determined to protect those he cared about. "Together, we can face whatever comes next," he said, looking at his friends. "We won't let this darkness win." And with that resolve burning brightly within him, they stepped into the light of the setting sun, ready to confront whatever challenges awaited them on the horizon. As they emerged from the shadowy confines of the forest, Naruto, Hinata, and Jiraiya made their way back to Kanade, the weight of the recent battle still heavy in their hearts. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a fiery glow over the village, a stark contrast to the darkness they had just confronted. Upon returning to the village, they were greeted with a mixture of relief and concern from the villagers. Word of their success against the shadow creature had spread quickly, but it was evident that the fear of Knull's remnants still lingered. Tsunade met them at the village gates, her expression a mix of anxiety and anticipation. "You're back. What did you find?" she asked, her voice sharp and urgent. Naruto stepped forward, a determined gleam in his eyes. "We defeated a massive shadow creature in the forest. It was one of Knull's remnants, and it seemed to draw power from the darkness surrounding it. But we still don't know where the source is." However, Jiraiya added, the fight felt different. The shadows seemed to have a mind of their own, as if they are responding to something deeper. "We need to investigate this further." Tsunade nodded, her expression serious. "Then we need to gather a team. If Knull's influence is spreading, we must act quickly. I'll send word to the other villages and request their support. In the meantime, we need to prepare ourselves." As they discussed their next steps, Naruto felt a stirring within him, a flicker of Knull's power that seemed to resonate with the urgency of their mission. He glanced at Hinata, who was listening intently, her expression thoughtful. "Do you think the remnants are trying to find a way to resurrect Knull?" Hinata asked quietly. "It's possible," Jiraiya replied, crossing his arms. If they are gathering strength, they may be searching for a way to manifest his power again. We can't let that happen. Naruto clenched his fists, determination surging within him. Then we have to stop them before it's too late. I won't let Knull's darkness return. We need to find the source and destroy it. The next morning, Naruto and his friends gathered with Tsunade and other Konoha shinobi to formulate their plan. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation as they discussed potential strategies. They would need to split their forces to cover more ground and locate the remnants of Knull effectively. We can send teams to different locations where shadows have been reported, Tsunade suggested, her finger tapping against the map laid out before them. But we need to remain vigilant. These remnants could be more than mere shadows, they might have gained strength from their previous encounters. Naruto nodded, feeling a surge of determination. I want to lead one of the teams. We need to find the source of this darkness and put an end to it. I'll go with you, Hinata said, her resolve matching his. We can use our combined strength to investigate further. Count me in too, Jiraiya added, a grin on his face. It'll be just like old times. Let's go show those shadows what we're made of. As they prepared to depart, the weight of their mission settled heavily upon them. Each shinobi was aware of the dangers that lay ahead, but they were also fueled by a shared sense of purpose. The first destination was a small village located near the outskirts of the Land of Fire, where reports of shadowy figures had become increasingly frequent. As they approached the village, Naruto could feel the darkness lingering in the air, a palpable tension that raised the hairs on the back of his neck. Upon arrival, they were met by the village chief, a middle-aged man with deep lines etched across his face. His expression was grave, filled with fear and desperation. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice trembling. "We've lost many to the shadows. They come at night, stealing away our people." Naruto's heart clenched at the thought of innocent lives being taken. "We'll do everything we can to stop them. Can you tell us more about these attacks? Where do they happen?" The chief gestured toward the edge of the village. "It's always near the old ruins just beyond the trees. We believe there's something there that draws the shadows." Jiraiya nodded, his expression serious. "Then that's where we'll start our investigation. Everyone, stay inside tonight. We'll take care of this." As night fell, the village was shrouded in darkness, the only light coming from the flickering lanterns that lined the streets. Naruto, Hinata, and Jiraiya gathered their team of shinobi, strategizing on how to approach the ruins without drawing attention to themselves. "Let's move quietly," Naruto instructed, his voice low. "We need to scout the area and figure out what we're dealing with before engaging." The team slipped into the shadows, moving swiftly and silently through the trees until they reached the ruins. The structure loomed ominously before them, ancient stonework entwined with creeping vines, giving it an eerie appearance. "This place feels wrong," Hinata murmured, her Bikudan activated. "There's a heavy concentration of chakra here?" "Yeah, and it's not a good kind," Jiraiya replied, scanning the surroundings. "We need to be ready for anything." As they approached the entrance to the ruins, a chill swept through the air. Naruto could feel the darkness thrumming, an energy that seemed to resonate with his own. It beckoned to him, whispering promises of power and strength. "Stay focused," he reminded himself, shaking off the sensation. "We're here to stop this." They entered the ruins cautiously, the air thick with an unsettling energy. The interior was dimly lit, shadows flickering across the walls as they moved deeper into the heart of the structure. The silence was oppressive, each step echoing in a cavernous space. Suddenly, a low growl reverberated through the air, and shadows began to coalesce at the far end of the chamber. The figure that emerged was unlike any they had faced before, massive, with glowing eyes that pierced through the darkness. "It's here," Naruto breathed, his heart pounding in his chest. "Get ready." The creature lunged forward, a monstrous embodiment of shadow and malice. Naruto felt the darkness within him surge in response, a wave of power that threatened to consume him. But he steeled himself, refusing to let it take control. "Shadow Clone Jetsu," he shouted, summoning a legion of clones to surround the creature. They charged forward, trying to distract it while Hinata prepared her gentle fist technique. As the clones engaged the shadow beast, Jiraiya launched a barrage of jutsu to weaken its form. "Keep it occupied," he yelled, his voice ringing through the chamber. "We need to find a way to defeat it." Naruto felt the energy within him swelling, the darkness resonating with his chakra. "I can feel it, this power is mine," he shouted, embracing Knull's essence. "I won't let it control me." Drawing on that energy, he channeled it into his next attack. "Raisin Shuriken, infused with the shadows," he yelled, throwing the attack toward the creature. The swirling energy collided with the beast, illuminating the chamber in a brilliant display of light. The shadow creature shrieked, momentarily stunned as the clones pressed their attack. "Now, Hinata!" Naruto shouted, and she launched herself forward, her fists glowing with chakra as she struck the creature's vital points, disrupting its form. As the beast faltered, Jiraiya joined the fray, his own techniques striking true. "This is it. Let's finish it together." In a synchronized assault, they unleashed a final barrage of attacks, combining their powers to strike the creature down. The explosion of light engulfed the chamber, sending shockwaves through the ruins. When the dust settled, the shadows dissipated, leaving nothing but echoes of their presence. Naruto, panting heavily, looked around at his friends, who were equally exhausted but triumphant. "We did it," Hinata said, her breath coming in quick bursts. "But we need to find out why it was here. This isn't over." Naruto nodded, his heart still racing. "We need to explore the ruins further. There has to be a reason these shadows were drawn here." They pushed deeper into the structure, their footsteps echoing in the silence. As they navigated the crumbling hallways, they stumbled upon ancient inscriptions carved into the stone walls, symbols that pulsed with dark energy. "Look at this," Jiraiya said, examining the markings. "These symbols, they look like they are tied to Knull's power." Naruto stepped closer, feeling the energy resonate with the shadows within him. "It's like a seal, or a binding," he murmured, tracing the markings with his fingers. "This could be what's drawing the shadows here." "What do we do?" Hinata asked, concern etched on her face. "If we destroy the seal, will it stop the shadows?" Jiraiya furrowed his brow. "It's a risk, but it may be our only option. If Knull's remnants are tied to the seal, breaking it could disrupt their power." Naruto felt a sense of determination welling within him. "Then let's do it. We'll break the seal and put an end to this." With a shared nod, they focused their chakra on the markings, channeling their energy into the seal. The symbols began to glow, pulsing with dark energy as they concentrated. "Now!" Naruto shouted, unleashing a powerful wave of chakra. The markings shuddered and cracked, a blinding light erupting from the seal as it shattered. The energy rippled through the ruins, causing the ground to tremble. Shadows writhed and screamed, their forms twisting and contorting before dissipating into nothingness. As the last remnants of darkness faded, a sense of calm washed over the ruins. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, replaced by an eerie stillness. Exhausted but relieved, the trio stood amidst the remnants of their battle. They had faced Knull's darkness and emerged victorious, but they knew that this was only the beginning. "We did it," Hinata breathed, a smile breaking through her fatigue. "But we can't let our guard down. There's still a threat out there." "Yeah," Naruto said, clenching his fists. "We need to be ready for whatever comes next. I won't let Knull's darkness return." As they made their way back to Khanate, Naruto felt a renewed sense of purpose. The power of Knull resonated within him, but he was determined to wield it for good, to protect his friends and the village he loved. With each step, he felt the shadows becoming a part of him, a tool he could use to confront the challenges ahead. He was Naruto Uzumaki, a shinobi with the spirit of a warrior and the heart of a protector. Together with Hinata and Jiraiya, he would stand against the darkness and ensure that Knull's influence would never return. And as the sun rose over Khanate, illuminating the village in a warm glow, Naruto knew that they would face whatever came next together. As Naruto, Hinata, and Jiraiya made their way back to Khanate, the sunlight broke through the trees, casting a warm glow over the landscape. Despite their victory over the shadow creature, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the calm before the storm. The remnants of Knull's power still lingered in the back of his mind, and he knew that their fight was far from over. Upon their return, they were greeted with a mixture of relief and curiosity from the villagers. Tsunade was waiting for them at the Hulkish's office, her expression a mix of concern and determination. "I heard you defeated the creature," she said, her voice steady. "But I'm concerned about the implications. Knull's remnants are still out there, and we need to act quickly." "We found a seal in the ruins that was drawing the shadows," Naruto explained, his expression serious. "We destroyed it, but I have a feeling there are more like it out there." Tsunade nodded, her expression thoughtful. "We need to gather intel on other locations that may be affected. I'll send word to the other villages and request their support. In the meantime, we need to prepare for potential attacks." "Count us in," Jiraiya said, crossing his arms. "We'll do whatever it takes to protect the village." Naruto felt a surge of resolve. "I won't let Knull's darkness return. We'll find every last remnant and put an end to this." The following days were filled with preparations. Naruto trained relentlessly, honing his abilities and learning to control the darkness within him. He knew that the more he embraced Knull's power, the stronger he would become, but he was also acutely aware of the fine line between control and chaos. He made a train alongside him, her gentle presence a grounding force as they sparred. "You're getting stronger," she remarked, dodging one of Naruto's attacks and countering with a swift strike. "But remember, it's not just about power. It's about using it wisely." "I know," Naruto replied, panting slightly. "I just feel like I need to be ready for whatever's coming. I don't want to lose anyone again." He made his gaze soften as she approached him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You won't lose anyone as long as we stand together. We're a team, remember?" "Yeah," he said, a smile breaking through his seriousness. "A team." As the days turned into weeks, the village remained on high alert. Reports continued to trickle in about strange occurrences and shadow sightings in neighboring areas. The sense of urgency grew with each passing day, and it was clear that Knull's influence was not limited to the ruins they had destroyed. One evening, as they were gathered in the Hokage office to discuss their next steps, a messenger burst through the door, panting heavily. "Lady Tsunade. There's been an attack near the Hidden Mist village." "What kind of attack?" Tsunade asked, her voice sharp with concern. "The villagers reported seeing shadow creatures attacking at dusk. They've requested immediate assistance," the messenger replied, urgency etched on his face. Naruto felt a rush of adrenaline. "We need to go now," he said, determination flooding his words. "We can't let the shadows spread any further." Tsunade nodded, quickly organizing a response team. "I want you three to lead the mission," she said, her tone resolute. "Gather as many shinobi as you can. We need to confront this threat head-on." "Understood," Jiraiya replied, his expression serious. "We'll leave immediately." The journey to the Hidden Mist village was fraught with tension. As they traveled, Naruto felt the weight of Knull's darkness stirring within him, an energy that thrummed with potential. He could sense the shadows drawing near, and he steeled himself for the fight ahead. As they arrived at the village, the atmosphere was tense. Villagers hurriedly barricaded their homes, casting fearful glances toward the forest where the attacks had originated. Naruto could feel the heaviness in the air, the palpable fear that threatened to consume them. "We need to gather information," Jiraiya said, looking around at the frightened villagers. "What can you tell us about the attacks?" A villager stepped forward, his face pale. "They come at night, like living nightmares. We thought we had defeated the remnants, but they've returned with a vengeance. They are more powerful than before." Naruto felt a knot of unease settle in his stomach. "We need to prepare for tonight. Gather everyone in a central location for safety." The villagers nodded, moving quickly to follow his instructions. As night fell, Naruto, Hinata and Jiraiya stood watch at the edge of the village, their senses heightened as they awaited the inevitable onslaught. As darkness enveloped the village, Naruto's heart raced with anticipation. He could feel the shadows gathering, a restless energy that stirred the air around them. "They are coming," he said, his voice low. Just then, a guttural roar echoed from the trees, and shadowy figures began to emerge, swirling like a living tide. The creatures were larger and more aggressive than before, their eyes glowing with a malevolent hunger. "Get ready," Jiraiya shouted, channeling his chakra as he prepared to engage. Naruto felt the darkness within him responding, a surge of power that threatened to overwhelm him. "I can handle this," he yelled, embracing the energy. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Hundreds of clones burst into existence, surrounding the approaching shadows. They charged forward, the air crackling with energy as they clashed against the monstrous forms. "Hinata, now!" Naruto shouted, directing some clones to flank the creatures. Hinata moved swiftly, her Byakugan activated as she launched into her gentle fist technique, striking vital points on the shadow beasts. As the battle raged, Naruto felt the power of Knull coursing through him, amplifying his attacks. "Raisin Shuriken," he shouted, throwing his spiraling sphere of energy toward a group of creatures. The attack exploded upon impact, sending shards of energy scattering through the air. "Keep pushing," Jiraiya yelled, launching a barrage of elemental jutsu to weaken the remaining creatures. "We can let them break through?" The shadows roared in defiance, retaliating with swift attacks. One creature lunged at Naruto, its claws poised to strike. In a split second, he summoned Knull's power, enveloping himself in dark energy. "Shadow armor," he shouted, feeling the darkness coalesce around him like a second skin. The creature's claws collided with his armored form, but instead of faltering, Naruto pushed forward, unleashing a powerful punch that sent the creature crashing into the ground. As the battle continued, Naruto felt the energy within him surging. The shadows were strong, but he was stronger. He channeled his power, mixing his jutsu with the essence of Knull, creating devastating attacks that shattered the enemy's ranks. "Now's our chance," Hinata shouted, delivering a final blow to one of the creatures. "We need to finish this together," Naruto yelled, his voice echoing through the chaos. In unison, they unleashed their most powerful attacks. Naruto combined his Raisin Shuriken with Hinata's gentle fist technique, and Jiraiya infused it with his elemental jutsu. The resulting explosion lit up the night sky, a brilliant display of light that consumed the remaining shadows. When the dust settled, the battlefield lay silent. The oppressive darkness that had loomed over the village was gone, replaced by a sense of calm. Breathing heavily, Naruto surveyed the area, relief washing over him. "We did it," he panted, a sense of triumph filling his chest. "But we have to stay vigilant." The villagers emerged from their homes, their faces filled with gratitude and relief. "Thank you. Thank you for saving us," they cried, their voices ringing out in unison. Tears of relief filled the eyes of the villagers as they surrounded Naruto, Hinata, and Jiraiya, their voices echoing with gratitude. "You've saved us," one villager exclaimed, clutching Naruto's arm. "We were terrified, but you gave us hope." Naruto smiled, feeling warmth spread through him. "We'll always protect this village. As long as we stand together, we can face anything." As the villagers celebrated their newfound safety, Naruto felt a sense of purpose solidifying within him. The darkness within him was powerful, but he would wield it to protect those he cared about. He would face whatever threats lay ahead, ready to confront the shadows. As the celebration continued, Naruto found himself standing on a hill overlooking the village, the moonlight casting a gentle glow over the landscape. Hinata joined him, her presence a calming balm against the adrenaline still coursing through him. "You did well out there," she said, leaning against the railing beside him. "You've really grown stronger." "Thanks, Hinata," he replied, a smile tugging at his lips. "But I couldn't have done it without you. We make a great team." She smiled back, her eyes shining with determination. We'll keep getting stronger together. I believe in you, Naruto. As they stood together, Naruto felt the shadows within him thrumming softly, a reminder of the power he held. He was determined to control it, to use it for good. The remnants of Knull may have threatened the world, but he would stand against them. I won't let Knull's darkness win, he declared, gazing into the distance. I'll protect everyone, no matter what it takes. Hinata nodded, her resolve matching his. And I'll be by your side, always. With that unspoken promise hanging in the air, they turned back toward the village, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them. Together, they would confront the darkness, emerging as a beacon of hope against the shadows that threatened their world. And with each step forward, Naruto embraced the power within him, determined to forge a path toward a brighter future. The days turned into weeks as the village began to recover from the recent attacks. Naruto, Hinata, and Jiraiya continued to train and gather information about Knull's remnants, but Naruto felt a growing unease in his heart. The darkness within him stirred restlessly, a constant reminder of the power he now possessed. One evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, Naruto sat alone in his training area, deep in thought. The shadows flickered around him, and he closed his eyes, focusing on the energy coursing through him. He could sense the remnants of Knull's power, an echo of the dark deity's essence that he had absorbed. What are you trying to tell me? He whispered, feeling the power respond to his words, almost as if it were alive. As he concentrated, a vision flashed before him, images of battles, shadows consuming everything in their path, and the lingering presence of Knull himself. Naruto gasped, startled by the intensity of the vision. Is this what I'm meant to become? He wondered aloud. Am I destined to become a vessel for his darkness? Suddenly, a familiar voice broke through his thoughts. Naruto. Hinata called softly, stepping into the clearing. Are you okay? He opened his eyes, shaking off the remnants of the vision. Yeah, just lost in thought, he replied, forcing a smile. Hinata walked closer, her expression filled with concern. You've been distant lately. I can sense something is troubling you. I can't help but feel this darkness inside me, Naruto admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. It's powerful, but I don't want it to consume me. I want to be in control. Hinata reached out, placing a reassuring hand on his arm. You are in control, Naruto. You've faced so many challenges, and you've always found a way to overcome them. This is no different. I know, he said, his heart racing. But what if I can control it? What if it turns me into something I don't want to be? Then we'll face it together, Hinata assured him, her gaze unwavering. You're not alone in this. I believe in you, and I know you can find a way to harness that power for good. Her words struck a chord deep within him, a warmth spreading through his chest. Thanks, Hinata. I needed to hear that. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Naruto felt a renewed sense of determination. He wouldn't let the darkness define him, he would shape it into a force for good. The next morning, Naruto gathered with Jiraiya and Hinata to discuss their next steps. We need to find out if there are more seals out there, he said, his voice filled with resolve. We can't let Knull's power spread any further. I agree, Jiraiya replied, nodding. We should start by contacting the other villages and sharing what we've learned. They may have experienced similar attacks. Let's split up and gather as much information as we can, Hinata suggested. We can cover more ground that way. As they finalized their plans, a sense of urgency hung in the air. They knew that time was of the essence, and every moment counted in their fight against the darkness. Days turned into weeks as the trio traveled from village to village, gathering information and investigating reports of shadow sightings. They encountered remnants of Knull's power in various forms, each time learning more about the nature of the shadows and the threat they posed. During their travels, Naruto continued to train, learning to harness Knull's power without succumbing to it. He discovered new techniques, merging his jutsu with a dark energy coursing through him, creating powerful attacks that left his opponents in awe. One evening, as they rested at a small inn after a long day of gathering information, Jiraiya looked at Naruto with a knowing smile. "You've come a long way, kid. Your control over that darkness is impressive." "Thanks, but I still have a long way to go," Naruto replied, a hint of humility in his voice. "I need to be ready for whatever's coming." Hinata reached over, placing her hand on his. "You're already stronger than you know, Naruto. You've faced countless challenges, and you've always come out on top." He nodded, grateful for her unwavering support. "I appreciate that, Hinata. I'll keep pushing myself, for all of us." As they prepared to leave the inn the next morning, a messenger arrived with urgent news. "There's been a significant disturbance near the Valley of the End," he reported, his face pale. "Shadow creatures have been sighted, and we fear they may be gathering strength." Naruto felt a surge of adrenaline. "We need to go now?" Jiraiya nodded, his expression serious. "Let's not waste any time." The journey to the Valley of the End was swift, the air thick with tension as they approached the iconic landscape. As they arrived, they found the area shrouded in darkness, shadows swirling ominously above the ground. "This isn't good," Jiraiya muttered, scanning the area. "We need to be careful." Naruto's heart raced as he felt the energy in the air, a dark presence that sent chills down his spine. "I can sense it," he said, determination surging within him. "They are gathering for something." As they moved cautiously into the valley, the shadows began to take shape, monstrous figures emerging from the darkness, their eyes glowing with malevolence. The air crackled with energy as they prepared to engage. "Get ready!" Naruto shouted, his voice filled with urgency. The shadow creatures lunged forward, and Naruto felt the darkness within him responding to the threat. He summoned his shadow clones, their numbers swelling as they charged into battle. "Hinata, cover my back," he yelled, channeling Knull's energy to empower his attacks. As they fought, Naruto felt the power of Knull surging through him, amplifying his jutsu and allowing him to unleash devastating attacks. He was in control, harnessing the darkness to protect his friends and the village he loved. "Raisin Shuriken," he shouted, launching the spiraling sphere of energy at a group of shadow creatures. The attack exploded upon impact, sending shockwaves through the area. "Hinata," he called, watching as she darted through the fray, her strikes precise and powerful as she disabled the shadow creatures. Jiraiya joined the battle, unleashing a torrent of elemental jutsu to weaken the enemies. Together, they fought with a determination that echoed through the valley. But as the battle raged on, Naruto began to feel a shift in the air. The shadows seemed to respond to his power, swirling around him as if drawn to the darkness he wielded. "Keep pushing," Jiraiya shouted, his voice firm. "We can't let them overwhelm us." But Naruto could feel the darkness within him beckoning, whispering promises of power. "I won't let it take control," he shouted, forcing himself to focus. In that moment of clarity, he realized that he could use the darkness to his advantage. He embraced Knull's essence, channeling it into a new technique. "Shadow Siphon," he yelled, extending his hand toward the approaching shadows. The energy surged, drawing power from the creatures and weakening them as they fought against the pull. The shadows writhed in response, but Naruto held firm, his will unwavering. "I am not your vessel. I will control you." As he siphoned their energy, he felt a surge of power, a connection to the darkness that was both exhilarating and terrifying. He could feel the shadows becoming weaker, their forms dissipating as he absorbed their essence. "Now, Hinata," he called, channeling the energy into a powerful Raisin Shuriken. "Let's finish this." With a final push, they launched their combined attack, the swirling sphere of energy exploding in a brilliant display of light. The shadows screamed, their forms shattering into nothingness as the valley was illuminated. When the dust settled, silence enveloped the Valley of the End. Naruto, panting heavily, surveyed the area, his heart racing with adrenaline. They had fought against Knull's remnants and emerged victorious once again, but the weight of their battle lingered. "Is it over?" Hinata asked, her breath coming in quick bursts. "For now," Jiraiya replied, scanning the surroundings. "But we need to remain vigilant. Knull's power is still out there, and we can't let our guard down." Naruto nodded, feeling the darkness within him thrum softly, a reminder of the power he held. "I'll continue to train, to harness this power for good. I won't let it control me." As they made their way back to Kanade, Naruto felt a renewed sense of purpose. The shadows might have been defeated for now, but he knew that their fight against Knull's darkness was far from over. He would embrace the power within him, standing against whatever threats awaited them in the future. And with Hinata by his side, he was determined to forge a path of light through the encroaching darkness, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The world would know his name, not just as a shinobi but as a guardian of hope against the shadows. In the following weeks, Naruto's training intensified. He spent countless hours honing his skills, learning to control the darkness that Knull had left behind. He experimented with new techniques, merging his jutsu with a dark entity coursing through him. One day, as he practiced in the training grounds, he felt a shift in the air, a familiar presence approaching. He turned to see Kakashi walking toward him, a thoughtful expression on his face. "Hey, Naruto," Kakashi greeted, hands in his pockets. "I've heard about your recent battles. Seems like you've been quite busy." "Yeah, you could say that," Naruto replied, a hint of pride in his voice. "I'm working on controlling Knull's power." Kakashi nodded, his gaze serious. "That's a dangerous path, Naruto. You have to be careful not to let it consume you." "I know," Naruto said, determination filling his words. "But I can't ignore it. I have to be strong enough to protect everyone." "I understand," Kakashi said, his tone reassuring. "But remember, strength isn't just about power. It's about knowing when to fight and when to hold back." Naruto nodded, taking Kakashi's words to heart. "I'll keep that in mind." "Let's see what you've learned," Kakashi suggested, stepping into a fighting stance. "Show me what you can do." With a grin, Naruto summoned his shadow clones, ready to demonstrate his newfound abilities. As they engaged in combat, he felt the darkness within him responding, enhancing his attacks as he pushed himself to the limit. "Good," Kakashi said, dodging one of Naruto's strikes. "But you need to find a balance. Harness the power without losing yourself to it." Naruto focused, channeling Knull's energy into his jutsu while maintaining control. With each strike, he felt the power flow through him, a force that was both exhilarating and daunting. Days turned into weeks, and Naruto continued to train diligently, but the sense of urgency never faded. They had defeated Knull's remnants, but he knew that new threats were looming on the horizon. One day, as they gathered in the Hokage's office to discuss their findings, Tsunade looked serious. "We've received reports from several villages about unusual shadow sightings. It seems Knull's influence is spreading. What do we do?" Hinata asked, concern etched on her face. "We need to form a coalition with the other villages," Tsunade replied. "If Knull's power is truly returning, we must be prepared to confront it head-on." "Count us in," Naruto said, determination burning in his eyes. "We'll do whatever it takes to stop this threat." Tsunade nodded, a hint of pride in her expression. "I knew you would. Gather your team, and we'll set out to meet with the other village leaders." As they traveled from village to village, Naruto felt a growing sense of purpose. He was determined to harness Knull's power, not just to defeat the shadows, but to become a beacon of hope for those around him. Each village they visited shared their experiences, revealing the depths of Knull's influence and the darkness that threatened their world. The allies they gathered formed a formidable coalition, each shinobi eager to confront the darkness together. On the final night before their planned attack, Naruto stood on a hill overlooking the valley, his heart racing with anticipation. The stars twinkled above, a reminder of the vastness of the world and the challenges that lay ahead. He felt Hinata approach, her presence comforting in the stillness of the night. You're ready for this, Naruto, she said softly, her voice filled with conviction. I believe in you. I won't let you down, he promised, determination flooding his heart. We'll face this darkness together. As they stood side by side, Naruto felt the power within him thrumming, a connection to Knull that he had learned to embrace. He was no longer just a vessel for darkness, he was its master, wielding it to protect those he loved. With the dawn of a new day on the horizon, Naruto felt a renewed sense of hope. The shadows may threaten their world, but together, they would stand against it. The battle was far from over, but he was ready to face whatever challenges awaited them. And as the sun rose, casting its golden light across the land, Naruto knew that he would fight for a brighter future, forging a path of light through the darkness that sought to consume them all. The dawn of the new day brought with it a sense of urgency and anticipation. As the sun's rays broke through the horizon, casting a warm glow over the valley, Naruto gathered his allies in a central clearing. The coalition of shinobi from various villages stood assembled, their expressions a mixture of determination and anxiety. They were all aware that the battle ahead would not be easy. Everyone, thank you for coming together today, Naruto began, his voice steady and commanding. We stand on the precipice of a great battle against Knull's shadows. We know the darkness is powerful, but together, we are stronger. Together, we will show them that we will not back down. His words ignited a fire in the hearts of his comrades. Shouts of agreement echoed through the clearing, a wave of resolve washing over the gathered shinobi. Among them, Hinata stood close by, her eyes shining with unwavering faith in Naruto. Jiraiya stepped forward, a serious expression on his face. Before we proceed, let's go over the plan one more time. We'll split into teams to cover more ground and draw out the shadows. Remember, our priority is to eliminate the core of their power. Once we do that, the rest will fall. Right. Naruto replied, nodding vigorously. And I'll be leading one of the teams. We need to stay in communication at all times. If you see any sign of Knull's remnants, call for backup immediately. As they discussed their strategy, Naruto felt the familiar pulse of Knull's darkness within him. He had grown accustomed to its presence, learning to channel its power while keeping it in check. Today, he would harness that power to protect his friends and his home. With their plan set, the coalition split into teams and headed toward various locations reported to be hotspots for Knull's shadows. Naruto, Hinata, and Jiraiya formed one team, traveling toward a forest where sightings of shadow creatures had been confirmed. The trees loomed tall and dark around them, the atmosphere thick with tension. As they ventured deeper into the forest, Naruto could feel the energy in the air shift. The shadows danced around them, flickering in and out of visibility, almost as if they were aware of their presence. Stay alert, Jiraiya warned, his eyes scanning their surroundings. They could strike at any moment. As if on cue, dark figures emerged from the underbrush, their eyes glowing with malice. The creatures surged forward, lunging at the trio with terrifying speed. Here they come. Naruto shouted, summoning his shadow clones in an instant. Let's show them what we've got. The clones charged into battle, colliding with the shadow creatures. Naruto felt the darkness within him respond, empowering his clones and amplifying their attacks. He launched a Raisin Shuriken into the fray, its swirling energy tearing through the shadows and causing them to disintegrate upon contact. Hinata, now, he yelled, watching as she moved with grace and precision, using her Bikudan to identify weak points in the enemy's formation. With a series of fluid movements, Hinata struck with pinpoint accuracy, her gentle fists disabling the creatures. This way, Naruto, she called, directing him toward a group of shadows gathering at the edge of the clearing. As they fought, Naruto felt the darkness stirring within him, urging him to embrace its full potential. He hesitated for a moment, fighting against the seductive whispers that promised power beyond imagination. But then, with a determined breath, he focused on the purpose behind his power. I won't be a puppet to this darkness, he declared, channeling Knull's essence into a new technique. Void Pulse. A massive wave of dark energy erupted from him, sweeping across the clearing. The shadows screamed as the energy engulfed them, their forms disintegrating in an instant. The technique had both a devastating and liberating effect, allowing him to exert control over the darkness without succumbing to it. Impressive. Jiraiya called out, a grin spreading across his face. You're really getting the hang of it. Thanks. Naruto replied, his heart racing with excitement. But we can't let our guard down. There's still more out there. After the initial wave of shadows was vanquished, the trio pressed deeper into the forest, determined to find the source of the darkness. As they moved cautiously, Naruto sensed a pulsing energy, a core of malevolence drawing them closer. There, he exclaimed, pointing to a clearing up ahead where the shadows converged. That must be it. As they approached, the atmosphere thickened with a dark aura. A massive, swirling mass of shadows pulsated at the center, the remnants of Knull's power coalescing into a singular form. Tendrils of darkness lashed out, snapping toward the trio. Prepare yourselves. Jiraiya shouted, positioning himself between Naruto and the mass. This will be a tough fight. Naruto felt the pull of Knull's essence within him growing stronger, urging him to merge with the shadows and unleash their full potential. But he shook his head, focusing instead on his friends and their mission. We'll do this together, he yelled, gathering his chakra. On my signal, unleash everything we have. Hinata nodded, her resolve mirroring his own. I'm ready. Let's do it. Jiraiya shouted, a determined grin on his face. With a deep breath, Naruto unleashed a combination of shadow clones and Knull's energy, channeling it into an enormous raisin shuriken. The attack glowed with dark energy, a testament to the power he had learned to control. Now, he commanded, launching the attack directly at the swirling mass. The raisin shuriken spiraled toward the core, and as it made contact, the explosion lit up the clearing, sending shockwaves rippling through the forest. The shadows writhed and screamed as the energy tore through them, the core destabilizing under the onslaught. Naruto felt the darkness within him reacting, a surge of energy coursing through his veins as he pushed the attack to its limit. Hinata. Jiraiya. Keep attacking, he yelled, feeling the tide of battle turning in their favor. With renewed vigor, Hinata and Jiraiya followed his lead, launching their jutsu in unison. A torrent of elemental attacks combined with Hinata's precise strikes pummeled the core, forcing the shadows to disperse. As the last remnants of the mass began to shatter, Naruto felt a familiar sensation, a connection to Knull that had once terrified him now fueled his determination. He raised his hand, channeling his will to seal away the remaining darkness. Shadow binding technique, he shouted, extending tendrils of shadowy energy toward the dispersing core. The shadows twisted and writhed but slowly began to succumb to Naruto's will, pulled into the binding jutsu. With one final surge of energy, the core shattered completely, light bursting forth as the shadows dissipated into nothingness. A sense of calm washed over the clearing, the oppressive darkness lifting as the sun broke through the canopy overhead. Did we do it? Hinata asked, her eyes wide with disbelief. We did. Naruto exclaimed, panting from the exertion but grinning broadly. We actually did it. Jiraiya laughed, a sound of relief and pride. That was incredible, Naruto. You've really come a long way. As they caught their breath, Naruto felt a lingering presence of Knull's power within him, a reminder of the darkness he had faced. But rather than fear it, he embraced it, knowing he had the strength to control it. The journey back to the coalition's meeting point was filled with a sense of triumph. They had faced the shadows and emerged victorious, but Naruto knew this was just one battle in a larger war against Knull's remnants. As they arrived, they were greeted with cheers and applause from their allies. The other shinobi had witnessed their fight and celebrated their success, the atmosphere electric with hope. Thanks to you three, we've made a significant dent in Knull's power, one of the village leaders remarked, gratitude shining in his eyes. But we must remain vigilant. The darkness may still linger in other areas. Naruto nodded, a sense of determination filling him. We won't stop until we've eradicated every trace of Knull's influence. We'll work together to protect our villages and our way of life. Hinata stood beside him, her presence a steadying force. We're stronger together. If we continue to unite, we can overcome any darkness that threatens us. As the coalition leaders discussed their next steps, Naruto felt a sense of purpose solidify within him. He had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, not just for himself but for everyone he loved. In the following days, Naruto and his allies continued to strategize, preparing for potential attacks from Knull's remaining forces. They traveled to villages, spreading knowledge of the recent victory and urging them to remain vigilant against the encroaching shadows. Throughout it all, Naruto trained relentlessly, pushing himself to new heights as he learned to harness Knull's darkness without losing himself. He discovered new techniques, experimenting with the shadows to create unique jutsu that combined his traditional skills with the dark energy. One day, while training alone, he found himself deep in meditation, feeling the ebb and flow of the darkness within him. He focused on understanding its nature, trying to grasp the essence of Knull's power without being consumed by it. In that moment of clarity, a vision came to him, a glimpse of Knull himself, a figure cloaked in shadows, watching from the depths of the void. The entity exuded a powerful, malevolent energy that sent shivers down Naruto's spine. "You may have defeated my remnants, Naruto Uzumaki," Knull's voice echoed in his mind, resonant and chilling, "but the darkness will always return. You cannot escape it." Naruto clenched his fists, determination surging through him. "I will face you again, Knull. I won't let you harm anyone else. I'll protect my friends and my village, no matter what it takes." With that vow, he broke free from the vision, gasping for breath. The encounter had shaken him, but it also fueled his resolve. He was no longer just a vessel for Knull's darkness, he was its master, using it to become a force for good. As the days turned into weeks, rumors of Knull's influence began to wane. The coalition's efforts were paying off, with fewer reports of shadow sightings. However, Naruto knew better than to grow complacent. The darkness had a way of lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Naruto gathered with his friends atop the Hokage monument, looking out over the village. The sky was painted in hues of orange and purple, a beautiful sight that reminded him of the peace he fought for. "Do you think we've really done it?" Himeda asked, her voice filled with hope yet tinged with uncertainty. "What if Knull isn't really gone?" "We'll be ready if he shows his face again," Naruto replied, determination lacing his words. "I've learned a lot about Knull's power, and I won't hesitate to fight it." Himeda smiled, her trust in him unwavering. "I believe in you, Naruto. We'll face whatever comes together." As they stood in comfortable silence, a sense of camaraderie surrounded them. Naruto felt a surge of gratitude for his friends and the bonds they had forged through their battles. But just as the feeling of peace settled over the village, a new threat emerged from the shadows. One night, as Naruto was training alone, he sensed a disturbance in the air, an ominous presence looming closer. Suddenly, dark tendrils shot out from the ground, wrapping around him. Naruto reacted instinctively, summoning his clones to break free. But as they fought against the darkness, a figure materialized before him, cloaked in shadow. "Did you think you could defeat me so easily?" The voice was familiar, cold, and mocking. "You may have defeated my remnants, but I am far from gone." Naruto's heart raced as he recognized the entity before him. Knull had returned, and this time, he was ready to face his greatest challenge yet. "I won't let you hurt anyone else," Naruto shouted, channeling the darkness within him. "I'll protect my friends and my village." With that declaration, Naruto prepared for battle, feeling the power of Knull coursing through him, ready to harness it against the very being that had once threatened to consume him. The confrontation had come full circle, and he was determined to emerge victorious. The fate of his world hung in a balance, but Naruto was no longer just a vessel of darkness. He was a warrior, ready to fight for light against the encroaching shadows. With every ounce of strength he possessed, he would show Knull that he had underestimated the resolve of a true shinobi. The air crackled with tension as Naruto faced Knull, the dark entity radiating an aura of malevolence. The shadows writhed around them, echoing the power of their confrontation. Naruto's heart pounded, but he stood firm, the determination burning within him. Do you truly believe you can challenge the god of darkness? Knull sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. I have witnessed countless beings fall before me. You are merely a child playing with forces beyond your understanding. I'm not afraid of you. Naruto shouted, channeling his chakra and summoning a massive wave of dark energy. You may be powerful, but I've faced your remnants and overcome them. I won't let you destroy everything I love. Knull chuckled darkly, a chilling sound that sent shivers down Naruto's spine. Such bravado. Let's see if your power is enough to save you from your own hubris. With a wave of his hand, Knull unleashed a torrent of shadowy tendrils that lunged at Naruto. Reacting swiftly, Naruto summoned his shadow clones to intercept the attack, their bodies colliding with the tendrils in a violent clash. The shadows dispersed momentarily, but Knull's dark energy reformed, surging forward with relentless fury. Now, Naruto? Knull taunted, his voice echoing in the dark. Embrace the darkness within you. You cannot fight against your true nature. Naruto felt the pull of Knull's power, seductive whispers tempting him to yield to the darkness. For a moment, doubt crept into his mind, but he quickly shook it off. He remembered the bonds he had forged, the people he fought for, and the light they brought into his life. I won't let you manipulate me, Naruto declared, his resolve strengthening. I've learned to control this power, and I'll use it to protect what matters. With newfound determination, Naruto gathered his chakra, merging his own energy with the dark essence of Knull's remnants within him. He felt the shadows coiling around him, but instead of being consumed, he directed them outward, molding them into a powerful attack. Dark Raisin Shuriken, he shouted, launching the swirling orb of energy toward Knull. The jutsu crackled with dark energy, a manifestation of his control over the shadows. Knull's eyes widened in surprise as the attack hurtled toward him. Foolish child, he roared, raising his hands to deflect the oncoming jutsu. The explosion lit up the clearing, sending shockwaves rippling through the forest. When the smoke cleared, Knull stood unfazed, a twisted smile on his lips. Is that all you have? You may have learned to control some of my power, but you are still weak. Don't underestimate me, Naruto shouted, feeling the adrenaline surge through him. He charged forward, determination fueling his every move. The darkness within him responded, enhancing his speed and strength as he prepared to confront Knull head-on. As Naruto closed the distance, Knull conjured a massive blade of shadow, swinging it down with lethal intent. But Naruto ducked under the attack, rolling to the side and swiftly launching a barrage of shadow clones. They surged forward, striking at Knull from all angles. Knull laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. You think numbers will save you? I have dealt with countless warriors before. With a flick of his wrist, Knull sent out a shockwave of dark energy that obliterated several clones in an instant. But Naruto didn't relent. He focused his chakra, channeling Knull's darkness into his own jutsu. Shadow binding technique, he shouted, extending tendrils of dark energy to ensnare Knull. The shadows coiled around the dark god, restricting his movements. Impressive. Knull growled, struggling against the bindings. But you cannot hold me forever. I won't need to, Naruto declared, feeling the power surge through him. You may be powerful, but I'm fighting for something greater. As Knull strained against the shadows, Naruto unleashed his full potential, summoning the energy within him and transforming it into a radiant form of dark chakra. The transformation was breathtaking, a fusion of his own spirit and the darkness of Knull's remnants. Let's finish this, Naruto roared, his voice resonating with the combined power of light and dark. With a swift motion, he launched himself toward Knull, fist charged with energy. The tendrils of shadow wrapped tighter around Knull, restricting his movements, while Naruto closed the distance. Raisin Cage, he shouted, delivering a devastating blow infused with the essence of Knull, amplified by his own will to protect. The impact sent ripples of energy through the air, shaking the very ground beneath them. Knull roared in anger, his eyes blazing with fury as the attack connected. The force of Naruto's blow sent him sprawling backward, the shadows around him dissipating momentarily. You think this is over? Knull hissed, getting back to his feet, albeit unsteadily. You are but a fleeting moment in my existence. I will return, and you will bow to me. Naruto, fueled by a fierce determination, stepped forward, unwilling to let Knull escape again. I won't let you threaten my world again. I'll fight until my last breath. With that declaration, Naruto gathered his chakra, merging it with Knull's darkness one last time. This ends now. He launched himself at Knull with all the speed he could muster, the shadows swirling around him in a brilliant display of power. Knull's eyes widened in horror as Naruto prepared to unleash his final technique. Dark Celestial Shuriken, he shouted, creating a massive shuriken infused with the combined entity of both light and darkness. The shuriken spun rapidly, radiating a powerful aura as it hurtled toward Knull. No! Knull screamed, but it was too late. The attack struck true, colliding with him and erupting in a blinding explosion of energy that resonated throughout the forest. As the dust settled, the remnants of Knull's presence began to fade, the darkness dissipating like smoke in the wind. Naruto stood amidst the aftermath, panting heavily but filled with a sense of victory. I did it, he whispered, a mixture of disbelief and triumph washing over him. I actually did it. Suddenly, a warm light enveloped him, and the familiar presence of his friends surrounded him. He made a rush to his side, her eyes filled with concern. Naruto. Are you okay? I'm fine, he replied, managing a tired smile. We won. Knull's gone, for now. Jiraiya placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder, pride evident in his gaze. You've grown stronger, Naruto. You've faced a god and emerged victorious. You've proven that the light can overcome the darkness. The rest of their coalition gathered around, expressions of awe and admiration directed at Naruto. He felt a swell of warmth in his chest, knowing that they had all fought for the same goal. But we need to remain vigilant, Naruto said, catching his breath. Knull may be defeated, but darkness can always return. We have to stay united, ready to protect our villages and each other. The group nodded in agreement, a collective resolve filling the air. They had faced unimaginable odds and emerged victorious, but the fight against darkness was never truly over. In the weeks that followed, Naruto and his friends continued to strengthen their bonds, training, and strategizing to ensure they were ready for any threat that might arise. The experience had changed him. He had faced the darkness and emerged not only as a powerful shinobi but also as a beacon of hope for those around him. As they prepared for a festival to celebrate their victory, Naruto found himself reflecting on everything that had transpired. He stood atop the Hokage monument once again, looking out over the village he loved. The sun bathed the rooftops in golden light, and laughter echoed through the streets below. Hey, Hinata, he called, turning to find her standing beside him. What do you think the future holds for us? Hinata smiled softly, her eyes filled with warmth. I think we'll continue to protect each other and our village. Together, we can face whatever challenges come our way. Naruto nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. Yeah, together. We'll face the darkness and bring light wherever we go. With that thought in mind, he felt a surge of confidence. No matter what lay ahead, he was ready to embrace it, wielding the power he had earned not just for himself, but for everyone who believed in him. And in that moment, he understood darkness might always lurk, but as long as he stood with his friends, they would always shine bright against it. Together, they would forge a path of light in a world that would forever be challenged by shadows. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: Naruto Uzumaki would not back down. He would protect his loved ones and ensure that the darkness would never consume them again. The battle was far from over, but with every step he took, he would face it head-on, ready to carve his own destiny. As the festivities unfolded in a village, Naruto immersed himself in the vibrant atmosphere, laughter echoing around him as villagers celebrated their hard-won victory. Children ran about, their joy infectious, while adults gathered to share stories and feasts. The air was filled with the scent of delicious food, and colorful lanterns danced in the evening breeze, lighting up the village with a warm glow. Hey, Naruto, a familiar voice called out. He turned to see Sakura approaching, her cheeks flushed with excitement. "Are you ready for the races? We're all gathering at the training grounds." "Of course. I wouldn't miss it for the world," he replied, his enthusiasm matching hers. The races were a long-standing tradition in Kanata, and Naruto loved the competition. As they made their way to the training grounds, he couldn't help but feel a sense of belonging. After everything he had faced, the dark challenges and his newfound power, moments like these reminded him of the importance of community and friendship. Once they arrived, the atmosphere was electric. Everyone had gathered, cheering and laughing as the races began. Naruto quickly joined the lineup, standing shoulder to shoulder with his friends, ready to showcase his speed. "On your marks. Get set. Go." The signal was given, and they all dashed forward. Naruto, infused with the remnants of Knull's power, felt an exhilarating surge of energy as he sprinted ahead, leaving everyone in a dust. But as he crossed the finish line first, a sense of fun replaced the competitive spirit. He turned back, laughing as his friends caught up. "You guys are so slow. I thought you were training hard." Sakura rolled her eyes but laughed, her hands on her hips. "You've always been fast, Naruto. Just remember to let us catch up sometimes." Yeah. You'll get there," he teased, a wide grin plastered on his face. After several more races and gains, the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The villagers gathered for the final event of the evening, a lantern release, a tradition symbolizing their hopes and dreams for the future. Naruto stood among his friends, holding a beautifully crafted lantern. He looked around at the smiling faces, the camaraderie they shared, and felt a surge of gratitude. "This moment, it's perfect," he thought. As they released their lanterns into the sky, Naruto closed his eyes and made a wish. "I wish for peace and happiness for everyone in Kanata and beyond. I'll protect this place no matter what." The lanterns floated upward, illuminating the night sky, each one carrying a piece of hope. It was a beautiful sight, and Naruto felt a sense of determination settle within him. He would make sure that the darkness they had faced would never threaten their peace again. The following days were filled with training, not only for Naruto but for everyone in the village. The memory of Knull's influence lingered, and they were all aware that their victory was only temporary. In the midst of his training sessions with Kakashi, Naruto began to experiment with his newfound abilities. The power of Knull coursed through him, but instead of embracing it fully, he sought to understand it, to harness it for the good of others without letting it consume him. "All right, Naruto, let's see what you've got," Kakashi said, watching him closely. "Right. Here goes." Naruto responded, channeling dark energy into his hands, creating a swirling orb of shadows. With a flick of his wrist, he launched it toward a nearby boulder. The impact was explosive, sending shards of rock flying and creating a crater where the boulder once stood. "Impressive," Kakashi noted, a hint of surprise in his voice. "But be careful. Using too much dark energy can be dangerous. You need to find balance." "I know," Naruto replied, panting slightly from the exertion. "I'm trying to learn how to control it. It feels so powerful." "Power is only useful if you can control it," Kakashi reminded him. "You need to find the right path, one that doesn't lead you down a dark road." "I will," Naruto promised. "I won't let Knull's influence take hold of me. I'm going to use this power to protect everyone, not to harm them." Kakashi nodded, his expression serious. "Good. Remember, it's not just about the strength you possess, it's also about your heart. Always keep that at the forefront." Days turned into weeks as Naruto trained alongside his friends, honing their skills and preparing for any potential threats. The bonds among them strengthened, and their collective resolve grew. However, whispers of a new danger began to circulate. It started with strange occurrences, villagers reporting sightings of dark figures lurking at the edges of the forest, and chakra readings that felt familiar yet twisted. One evening, Naruto gathered with his friends, their expressions grim as they discussed the reports. "It can't be Knull again, can it?" Sakura asked, worry evident in her voice. I hope not, Naruto replied, crossing his arms. But we can't ignore it. If there's even a chance it's connected to Knull, we have to investigate. Let's split into teams and check the area, Shikamaru suggested, his mind already working through strategies. We can cover more ground that way. Good idea. Naruto agreed. I'll take Hinata, and Sakura, you go with Shizuke. Let's meet back here after an hour. With their plan set, the groups dispersed into the twilight, the village slowly fading behind them as they ventured into the forest. The trees loomed overhead, casting eerie shadows in the fading light, but Naruto remained undeterred. The air felt charged with energy, a sensation that ignited his instincts. Do you sense it, Hinata? He asked, glancing over at her as they moved cautiously through the underbrush. Yes, she replied, her Bikudan activated. There's a strong chakra signature nearby, but it's different. It feels darker. Let's check it out, he said, determination settling over him. Stay close. They moved quietly, the forest growing denser and more foreboding as they approached the source of the energy. Suddenly, Hinata stopped, her expression tense. Naruto, wait. I see something ahead. Naruto halted, peering through the foliage. Ahead of them stood a gathering of dark figures, their forms flickering like shadows in a fading light. The air around them buzzed with malice, and an unsettling sense of dread washed over him. Those aren't normal bandits, he muttered. What are they? Before he could formulate a plan, one of the figures turned, revealing a twisted, grinning face. Ah, the child of prophecy returns. How delightful. It spoke with a voice that dripped with malice. Who are you? Naruto demanded, stepping forward, ready to summon his power. What do you want? We come in service to Knull, the figure hissed, shadows riding around it. Though he may be temporarily defeated, his essence remains, and we are here to reclaim it. You cannot stop us. Naruto felt a surge of anger. I won't let you take anything from this village. Not while I'm here. With that declaration, he unleashed his dark energy, a swirling mass of power that enveloped him. Get ready, Hinata. The figure's grin widened. Foolish child. You will regret this. And in that moment, the battle began, shadows clashing with light as Naruto and Hinata prepared to face the remnants of Knull's influence, ready to protect their home and confront whatever darkness threatened to arise once more. The stakes were high, but Naruto had no intention of backing down. He would fight, not just for himself, but for everyone he loved. The forest erupted into chaos as Naruto and Hinata confronted the dark figures that had materialized before them. Shadows twisted and writhed, coalescing into sinister shapes that radiated a chilling aura. The air was thick with tension, and the weight of impending battle pressed heavily on Naruto's shoulders. Stay focused, Hinata, he called, summoning his chakra and channeling the darkness within him. We need to take them down before they can regroup. Hinata nodded, her Bikudan enabling her to scan the enemy ranks. There are 5 of them, she reported, her voice steady despite the urgency. They are strong, but I can see their chakra pathways. We can exploit their weaknesses. Let's do it. Naruto shouted, charging forward with a burst of speed, dark energy swirling around him like a tempest. He drew on the remnants of Knull's power, knowing he could wield it without being consumed by it. The leader of the dark figures, a tall, shadowy entity with glowing eyes, stepped forward, a smirk playing on its lips. You think you can defeat us so easily? You are merely a child of the light, and you will be extinguished. Not today. Naruto countered, leaping into the air and unleashing a volley of shadow-infused Knull. They struck with deadly precision, exploding on contact and sending the dark figures reeling. Now, Hinata, he shouted, signaling her to follow up. Hinata moved swiftly, her gentle fist style flowing seamlessly as she darted toward the nearest figure. She activated her signature technique, her chakra enhancing her strikes. With a flurry of blows, she targeted the chakra points in her opponent's body, aiming to immobilize it. Byakugan 8 trigrams, 64 palms. Hinata cried out, her strikes landing with pinpoint accuracy. The dark figure staggered, its shadowy form flickering as it struggled to remain solid. Good job, Hinata. Naruto cheered, feeling a surge of motivation. Keep it up. As Hinata engaged one of the figures, Naruto turned his attention to the leader, who was regaining its composure after the initial assault. The dark figure snarled, raising its hand to conjure a wave of shadowy tendrils that shot toward Naruto. Not this time. Naruto shouted, channeling his energy to create a barrier of light that deflected the attack. The shadows dissipated against the protective force, and he seized the opportunity to launch himself forward, fist charged with power. Raisin Shuriken, he yelled, forming the swirling orb of energy in his hands. With all his might, he hurled it at the leader, watching as it struck true, causing an explosion that lit up the forest. The leader was thrown back, but it quickly recovered, its form shifting as it absorbed the darkness around it. You think you can stop us with such trivial attacks? We are the harbingers of Knull's will. I don't care about Knull's will. Naruto shouted, feeling the adrenaline pulse through him. I'm not afraid of you or the darkness you represent. Hinata, having finished off her opponent, rejoined him, ready for the next move. Naruto, they are not just here for a fight. They are trying to summon something. We need to stop them. I won't let that happen, he declared, charging at the leader once more. The dark figure raised its arms, dark energy swirling around it in a vortex. Foolish boy. You have no idea the power we wield. Naruto felt the shadows pulling at him, but he fought against it, channeling his own strength. I'm not giving in. He summoned the dark energy once more, this time combining it with his own chakra. This ends now. Dark Celestial Shuriken. With an explosive flourish, he launched the massive shuriken toward the leader, the darkness within it illuminating the surroundings. It spiraled through the air, a beacon of hope and defiance. No, the leader screamed, attempting to shield itself with a wave of tendrils, but it was too late. The shuriken struck with devastating force, creating a shockwave that reverberated through the forest. When the dust settled, the leader lay defeated, its form disintegrating into a cloud of dark energy that scattered into the night. The remaining figures, seeing their leader fall, hesitated, fear flickering in their eyes. Retreat! Retreat! One of them cried, the shadows that bound it beginning to fade. Naruto, breathing heavily, watched as the dark figures fled into the forest, their forms dissolving into the night. We did it, he exclaimed, adrenaline still coursing through him. We stopped them. Hinata approached him, a relieved smile breaking across her face. You were amazing, Naruto. We worked perfectly as a team. Naruto chuckled, the tension easing as he caught his breath. Thanks, Hinata. I couldn't have done it without you. We should head back and report what we found. As they made their way back to the village, Naruto's thoughts turned to the remnants of Knull's power that still lingered. They had faced a formidable challenge, but he knew this was only the beginning. The darkness was not fully vanquished, and it would require vigilance and strength to protect their home. Upon returning to Knull, they found the village bustling with activity, the festive atmosphere still lingering despite the challenges they faced. They regrouped with their friends, who were eager to hear about their encounter. What happened out there? Sakura asked, her eyes wide with concern. We felt a surge of chakra coming from the forest. Yeah, there were these dark figures, Naruto explained, recounting the details of their confrontation. They were trying to summon something connected to Knull. We managed to stop them, but I have a feeling they'll be back. Great work, you two, Kakashi praised, his tone serious. It's clear that Knull's influence is still lingering. We need to strengthen our defenses and stay on alert. Agreed, Shikamaru added, his brow furrowed in thought. We can't let our guard down. If they are trying to regroup, we need to be prepared for their next move. As they strategized, Naruto felt a fire ignite within him. I won't let them win. I'll train harder and become stronger. We'll face whatever comes our way together." His friends nodded, their determination matching his own. They would not let the darkness take hold of their village again. In the days that followed, Naruto threw himself into training, pushing his limits while exploring the depths of the dark power within him. He sought to master Knull's remnants without losing himself to the darkness. During a training session with Jiraiya, Naruto practiced controlling the shadows, attempting to bend them to his will without letting them consume him. The elder sage watched closely, observing the boy's struggle against the power he had inherited. "Remember, Naruto, balance is key," Jiraiya advised, his voice calm. "You have to embrace both the light and the dark. You can't run from either side of yourself." Naruto nodded, his focus unwavering. "I understand, Arasenin. I want to be strong enough to protect everyone, no matter what." With that resolve, he focused his energy, summoning a small orb of dark chakra. It flickered in his hands, fluctuating between light and shadow. He could feel Knull's influence, a cold whisper at the edge of his consciousness, but he pushed it aside, concentrating on his own identity. "Darkness is a tool, not a master," he muttered to himself, trying to internalize the lesson. "I won't let it define me." Jiraiya smiled, recognizing the growth in Naruto. "That's the spirit. Now, let's see how well you can harness that power. Show me what you've got." With newfound determination, Naruto launched into a series of advanced jutsu, each movement deliberate and powerful. He could feel the darkness responding, becoming an extension of himself rather than a burden. As he trained, he couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The dark figures they had encountered were only a part of a larger threat. He would need to rally his friends, preparing for whatever challenges lay ahead. Weeks passed, and as the village resumed its normal routine, Naruto remained vigilant. He kept a close eye on the forest, the shadows whispering reminders of the darkness that lurked beyond their home. But he also focused on strengthening his bonds with his friends, knowing that unity would be their greatest weapon. One day, as they trained together, a sense of unease crept over him. "Something feels off," he remarked, glancing at the horizon. "We need to stay prepared. I have a bad feeling about this." Sasuke, leaning against a tree, raised an eyebrow. "You're always so dramatic, Naruto. But I can feel it too. We should keep our guard up." Their training was interrupted by a sudden disturbance in the air, a palpable shift that sent shivers down their spines. Dark clouds rolled in from the forest, blotting out the sun and casting a shadow over the village. "Everyone, get ready," Naruto shouted, adrenaline surging through him as he sensed a surge of chakra approaching. "We have to protect Konoha." The team quickly rallied, gathering together as they prepared for whatever darkness was about to descend upon them. The ominous energy grew stronger, and from the depths of the forest emerged a new wave of dark figures, their forms shifting and riding in a fading light. "We've returned," one of the figures proclaimed, its voice echoing like a sinister melody. "And this time, we bring the true power of Knull." Naruto clenched his fists, the darkness swirling around him, and looked at his friends. "We are not backing down. We'll fight together." With that declaration, the battle for Konoha began anew, and Naruto charged forward, ready to face whatever darkness awaited them, his friends at his side. He felt the weight of his newfound power, not just as a weapon, but as a responsibility he was willing to bear. The fight would be long and arduous, but he was determined to protect the light that shone within him and those he loved. As the clash of light and dark echoed through the village, Naruto knew that he would stand against the encroaching shadows, fueled by the strength of his friends and the resolve to carve a future free from darkness.